Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Wednesday morning. Got some football coming up for you. We're going to get to Brandon Doman talking BYU football and JB Long talking Puka Nacua and the Los Angeles Rams. That's coming up in this hour. But right now, David Locke with PK talking about the changing nature of Major League Baseball and college sports. Here they are on The Zone.
You know him. You love him. He is David Locke, Mr. Jazz radio broadcaster. How the heck are you?
I'm good. Great to talk with David. James takes vacation. I didn't know this. After 17 years of knowing him, I'm not sure this has ever happened before.
You know, I wouldn't call it a vacation. It's a personal thing that he has to do involving family, but it's not really a vacation.
Oh, well, I guess things have never changed then. All right. I thought the hardest working guy never stops.
Well,
he might have actually turned a page.
Yeah, and I was supposed to be off today, but I rearranged it and came back early. I went on a baseball trip.
Oh, what'd you do?
My wife wanted to see Niagara Falls, so we did that. And
pretty great, actually. Did you go Canadian side or U.S. side?
Both, but we stayed in the Canadian side.
Okay, way better. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's a night and day difference.
Yeah.
And shooting fireworks over the falls at 10 o'clock, and I had no idea on the Canadian side that it was a big vacation spot. I mean, with rides and amusement, and the kids all over the place, and people. So since we were there, we did the boat ride, and they say you're going to get wet. What they should say is you're going to get more wet than taking a shower.
Yes. Did you get the poncho over the top of you or not?
Oh, of course.
It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't. No. I mean, you are soaked. It took 2 days for the clothes to dry out. I mean, to say you're going to get wet is a massive understatement.
Yes, that is accurate.
You will get drenched, and you'll laugh because it's nothing like anything you've ever done. And,
yes, and you'll wish you had different shoes for the rest of the day.
Precisely, and I wish somebody would have told me, because I only brought 2 pair of shoes, and one, we were going to the Jersey Shore, and they were just basically flip-flops. They're glorified flip-flops, so we kind of had to do that for a couple of days and keep the shoes in the sun and all that stuff. And then since we were close enough, we went up to Toronto, so I saw the Blue Jays play.
Oh, cool.
And then went back.
I went to Skydome, which is now Rogers, when it was brand new in 1990. I think it opened in 89.
It opened in 89. I looked it up, yeah.
And so I went and saw it in 1990 at the time, which was such a revolutionary concept. And that's when people were having sex in that hotel room. And you could see it. And it was like they had forgotten about that concept, that people might be voyeurs. And that's where Jose Canseco would hit that huge home run. But yeah, it was such a revolutionary, with a retractable roof, and the technology was crazy. It's probably outdated, and it's probably soon to be discussed as something at a stadium that needs to be replaced, I would guess.
As old as it is there, yeah. But, I mean, it's in a great location right there in the heart of downtown.
Toronto's my favorite city we travel to.
We explored.
Yeah, I thought Toronto was truly amazing. I wish I'd known there's a sandwich shop in Toronto that's, just crazy, small, no tables. You walk in, you grab your sandwich, and you're oh, what do I do with this? There's maybe 2 table seats, 4. And it's just amazing. But no, Toronto's unquestionably my favorite city.
The traffic was pretty nasty virtually at all times.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the 5th biggest city in North America. Or, yeah, fourth.
I thought I heard him say 3rd.
Oh, interesting. Mexico City, New York, Toronto?
Yeah. Yeah, it was just, there was traffic everywhere, but I mean, the game started at 7. We got downtown at 10, and just parked the car, so we had plenty of time.
That's pretty great. That's cool. And what else did you see? Anything else?
Then we went to Citi Field to see the Mets, and then over to Philadelphia to see the Phillies.
In 1990, I drove across country, and I saw a game in every stadium.
Oh, that's our goal. We only have 4 more to go.
And so it's so funny though. So there's only 26 at the time. It's a little bit of a trick to get it done, because there's actually, I don't know if it's still true, but at the time there were a bunch of weird things where the Rangers and Astros are never home at the same time, and the Angels and Dodgers are never home, the Cubs, White Sox. So there are a bunch of spots where you actually have to hit them. If you're going to get the trip done with any efficiency all in one summer, you had to hit, Texas or Dallas and then be able to get to Houston the next day, or catch Texas on the last day of a homestand and then get to Houston. We did it, but also it's funny. I mean, obviously 1990 is a long, long time ago now, but and Camden Yards was brand new, New Comiskey was brand new, and Skydome. Those were the three, and obviously Wrigley and Fenway were the old dogs. Now, I haven't seen any of these stadiums, right? Like, not only did Coors Field not exist, and not only did the Florida Marlins not exist, which made the trip possible, or the Miami Marlins, excuse me, which made the trip possible because you didn't have to go down that far south. And actually, frankly, not having to dive back into Colorado made it, because I was doing it out of San Francisco at the time. So not having those two spots was very helpful. But none of the stadiums are the same. Like, none of them. Go to Metrodome and Minneapolis is gone, and every single one of them. Three Rivers Park is gone,
Detroit.
Thank goodness, and Riverfront is gone, thank God. Those two were just such cookie cutter abominations.
Same thing in Philadelphia, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Cincinnati.
So anyway, just kind of interesting. I mean, obviously that's a lot. It actually happened really fast, because Camden Yards was so beautiful that the stadium revolution happened in the late 90s to early 2000s. So it was really interesting how fast all of them went away. Now that it's 2025? So 36 years ago or 35 years ago they did that. It's not as surprising that these stadiums are gone.
And a lot of times change is not viewed as positive, but this was change for the better.
Right.
Because these ballparks now are way more charming. And that's one of baseball's things is charming, is that you have to have that.
I wish that sometimes that baseball would dive more into the uniqueness of every field, right? Because I think with the modern era of all the data that they have now, it's like somewhat interesting that someone hit a 402-foot home run, but it's way more interesting when someone hits a 372-foot home run, and they're like, that would only be a home run in 5 of the 30 ballparks. You're like, oh, that's really cool. That's unique. Or somebody flies out, in a 4-2 game with 2 runners on, somebody flies out and the stat pops up like, oh, that would have been a home run in 21 of the other 30 buildings. Like, oh, well, then that's a really, then the makeup of the stadium had a big impact on the game.
I like it. That's a good idea. It is, and it does. Yeah, sure. So that's the one thing that you can get in that sport that the other ones are sort of uniform in that way in football and basketball, obviously.
And the game's watchable again, so you can now be a fan of it.
Yes, and I was there on Monday, and the game was decided in the bottom of the 10th on a catcher's interference. First time since 1971.
We have a new show. I'm going to plug it because I think it's really cool. If you're a baseball fan, we have a new show called Locked on MLB Game Night. And what it is we have a host for every team, right? So they record a 1-minute piece after every game, and then we just kind of our hosts bounce from one report to the next. And so you get a recap of the entire night of MLB, and we were instead of just covering New York, Boston, and LA, we cover every team. And so I think it's cool. So that's why I mentioned it. It's called Locked on MLB Game Night. And I listen to it almost every day as my way of catching up with what's going on with baseball. And the other day they were talking about catcher's interference, and I didn't realize this is all because of the computers. That the catchers are now trying to get closer to frame it differently because of the computers and the computer balls and strikes. And that's why we have more catcher's interference.
I didn't know that either, but it makes sense.
Right. Super interesting. But so tip of the hat to thus the free plug for our show. But that is, at least I'm not stealing information and acting like it's mine.
Cool. Okay.
You would like that show, by the way.
I will check it out.
Yeah.
I check out your stuff. Do you want to talk jazz or you want to talk the state of college sports?
I think the state of college sports is pretty fascinating. I have a podcast on the Jazz. If someone's that much of a diehard that they want it right now, we're recording it when we're done. We can do that. How's that? Here's what I think. I was talking to I was just talking to Jeff Thurman, is his name. He's the head of Utah Golf Association, and Stoddard is the head coach at Oklahoma State.
Annie Thurman.
Yeah, you got it. So my take on this is I'm pro portal because, I remember Rick McJair's calling Jordy McTavish into the room and telling him that all of his teammates hate him and he has to go, right? It wasn't true. So the coaches were evil.
Idaho State.
Right. And I'm pro players getting paid because clearly there was a lot of money out there that was worth it for people to pay their players, right?
No question.
And so And the people that are against the portal and against the players getting paid, my only comment to that is you just didn't really understand what was going on before.
Oh, that's absolutely correct. I've been saying that for years. I don't know that there's many people who are against that, though. They want maybe some regulations as opposed to being against it and not even having it existing.
100%. What it's doing to college sports and what the impact of two things I like are, I'm not so certain about, is the way I would phrase it. Like, I'm pro-portal, I'm pro-nil. I think these are good things. I just don't know what it means anymore, and I don't know what it means for fans. I know on a personal note, the conference realignment has destroyed my fandom because I think I was as much a fan of Stanford at this point because my dad and I went to games together, and every Saturday let us kind of talk and probably have the same conversation every year, which was like, oh, do you remember UCLA when John Neighbor hit the field goal to beat the Bruins in 19, or when Vinny White did such and such, and there was just a history to it.
Yep.
And now when Stanford plays Wake Forest, I just don't give a crap at all. In fact, I didn't watch one game all year. I couldn't tell you their schedule, and I couldn't probably tell you a player's name on their team anymore.
Okay, but how much is that they've gone through a little bit of a lull if they were 12-0, 11-1?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, if they're 12-0 or 11-1, you might be, if you're that extreme, right? It's pretty hard to not be interested in the top 10 team. But let's just be more realistic. If they were 8-4, like, I don't think I would care. I really don't think I would care if they were 8-4. But I also don't live there either. I mean, we've always the truth is, in all of these sports, that all we're doing is being a member of a tribe and rooting for cloth. That's just the truth of the matter. It's fine, right? We get identity by being a part of a group, which is great. This is like, we need this in society. This is a positive. And you can wear your hat of your team, and you wear your shirt, and then when I say you're rooting for cloth, like, it doesn't really matter if the players change, you still root for your team. Like, it hurts, but you still root for your team. And
you get over it.
Yeah, and Penn State's proven we actually don't care what you morally do with your team because we'll still root for our team and have no repercussions if, like, you're doing the most heinous things ever and decide, yeah, that's fine, we'll keep your statue up because it's part of a tribe. Like, that's what tribes do. And I was a little deep, but what I think also is there was a little bit of college sports, and I didn't have this because I didn't go to Stanford, where you would wear your sweatshirt of your alma mater and go to the game, and you're rooting for kids that in theory were kind of doing the same thing you did by going to that school. That part is now gone. Right? There's nothing similar about the running back making $3 million to you as the college student going to school. So that part is going to be gone. I don't know what the long-term impact of this is. It's just fascinating, though.
Yeah, but wasn't that running back already making money? We just didn't talk about it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, maybe not $3 million.
Not as much, granted.
Right. I mean, the one that's really interesting here when you try to find solutions is, okay, well, make these guys, I've heard a lot of people talk about this, make people sign a 2 or 3 year contract. Well, then they're employees. And then the impact of that, whether you care or not, is that there's no women's sports and there's no men's sports that aren't revenue generators anymore.
That's where I was going to get with that. I mean, you have a college athlete yourself and your family, and nobody
right.
I would think nobody wants to see sports eliminated, whether you're a fan of that particular sport or not. If you're a sports fan, you understand the value, particularly of young women who are bruised and battered in our world because they may not look like Sydney Sweeney or whomever it is, the latest hottie toddy of the day, and they're supposed to have that. And if they don't, they feel less of a person, and it is a tragedy, and sports is a way for them to develop and all that other stuff. So I don't think anybody wants to see that go away. I wouldn't think.
Yeah, I think some people don't care, which is unfortunate. It is interesting, though. I've watched sometimes, I mean, it's interesting, like when you say, well, Title IX goes, well, I don't like Title IX. Okay, well, your men's soccer team is gone. Oh, wait, what? The men's soccer team's gone?
And I don't like that either.
Right, it's not Title IX that's gone. It's all non-Olympics. It's non-revenue sports are gone because there's nothing. And I do think that part of a university is to have these opportunities the same way they have a theater and an art department, and kids are getting music scholarships and theater scholarships.
Agreed.
I mean, the other one I would say, just this is a side note that has always frustrated me, is I really wish kids could major in their sport. It's really what they're doing anyway. Trust me, I'm not in love with that concept, but it's going on. And if that's what you're doing, which is what truthfully most college kids are doing that are playing Division I sports, then take a finance class, take a nutrition class, take a coaching class, take an exercise science class, take a, make it real, but major in football. But football that involves all aspects of football, so that when you're done playing football or basketball or whatever your sport is, and you want to stay in it in some capacity, you then have a book of skills, because we let you major in theater and we let you major in dance and we let you major in music. And those are not just because they're elitist and somehow prestigious and allow you to be a snob doesn't actually mean that they have much less revenue opportunity in the long run than any of these sports, being a coach or being something in the sport or working for, like a golfer comes out with some skills and goes and works for Callaway. They can make a whole hell of a lot of money selling club, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. Whereas the music coach is really not going to make any money. So I don't really understand why. I would like us to the next step is to dive all in, let these kids go to college, have them be college students, but let them major in their sports. And if they're going to be making $3 million, let's go and give them a finance class while we're at it.
Yeah, but I think they can take one.
They can, but if it's hard, they can't. Then they're told not to.
Well, that's a fact. We've had athletes come on the air and tell us that, and I know what you're saying without saying it.
I mean, I'm not going to hide it. I have a Division I golfer. She's literally told what classes are available to her or not.
Right, because they can't get in the way of the team. That's why we're paying you to come here.
Right, 100%. She's not bringing in it. Come on, what's the joke? So they can finish last in the Big Ten.
Well, I mean, things may change now based on what's happened here recently.
Right. Yeah. So it's interesting, but I think your first point of the really interesting debate here is, okay, what is the purpose of collegiate sports and its societal impact on young adults? Okay, because that's where we started, and that's why we have college sports in theory, I would think.
Yes.
And then, so that's to your point that yes, you're preaching to the choir. That sports has given my daughter a feeling of worth and self-worth in a tough world for kids right now.
Yeah.
And and giving her the opportunity to have a week she'll never forget, like this one. And so then it's been great. But, so to me, that's what I would like to believe collegiate sports is. If we're just going to turn it into minor leagues, and that's what it is, so that fans can root for things and schools can brand themselves, then it's something else. And I don't know where we're heading. It's really, it's a great question. What is the purpose of this? Why? What are we doing? Is it just to fill a stadium and make money? That's really disappointing if that's where we are, but it might be where we are.
Understood. Where we are is we got to go. We've enjoyed your conversation this morning. I appreciate you getting up and talking with us.
Kyle Filipowski, Summer League MVP. Way to go, Flip.
Yeah, we can get to that the next time because that was going to be my topic. And what do we have there in that young man as a player, and we will get to that at another time. But thank you for your time.
Have a good weekend. Hope you get to hit him straight somewhere.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay, talk to you soon.
There's David Locke for the entire interview. Go to our website or wherever you get podcasts. When we come back, Brandon Doman is talking Cougar quarterbacks. Stay with us. DJ PK, it's time to welcome in Brandon Doman, former BYU quarterback, former BYU offensive coordinator. Brandon, good morning.
Hey, guys. Good morning. How are you?
We are doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I think you guys have been doing this for 40 years now. You guys have been doing this. That's pretty good. It's awesome. Come on.
Let's see. We are in year. Hold on. I can do the math here. We've done 23 years. We're in our 24th.
Well, you said it seems like.
I'm just saying. You guys kick butt. You're doing a good job.
Well, thank you. You were one of the first names across our lips because camp's going to open here, and there's 3 quarterbacks vying for a job, and practice isn't real because they don't let quarterbacks get hit, and nonetheless, they have to figure out who the best quarterback is. And it's just such a flawed system, Brandon. And I was thinking, I actually went back and looked it up because BYU's website, they've got some awesome stuff on there. Lavelle has a quote after the CSU game when you get to come in at quarterback at halftime and you haven't been playing and the team hasn't been scoring points. They'd only scored 20 points a game one time in the last 5 games. And you come in and it's 38-0. And you score 3 touchdowns. And a game story, it says short fields, block punts. I didn't remember any of that. You scored 30 points or more and won the next 2 games. And you started the next year 12-0 and you scored 30 points in 10 of those games. And Lavelle says at CSU, he says, something's wrong and I can't figure it out. And the answer is literally you standing next to him on the sideline as the next 14 games are going to prove. And he can't figure it out. And I'm thinking, that's because quarterbacks don't get hit in practice. And he didn't know how elusive you were and what a playmaker you were because you couldn't really show it because practice isn't real. And now at BYU and at other schools around the country, they're going to run out there practice and try to figure out who the best quarterback is. And I'm thinking, it's a flawed system. You played. You're an offense coordinator. Do you have any answers? Is there anything that could be done better to make sure you get the right quarterback? Because you're a great example of this system's flawed.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, it's so hard because you get into a practice setting. It's scripted. You're doing routes on air. You're throwing one-on-ones. You're constantly comparing who's got the best arm strength, who can throw the best ball, and it's almost impossible to simulate game-like scenarios. Not just game-like scenarios, but 65,000 fans in the stands, all the pressures leading up to the game, the experience during the game, and some guys just play better on game day. Some guys get into the stadium and their blood flows differently and they compete differently. The teammates respond differently to them. And so it is uniquely challenging to find a guy. So you're constantly looking for ways as a coach, both in the off season, during the spring and obviously during fall camp, how can we best assimilate that environment in every way possible? And I remember as a coach trying to figure out how do we put these guys into real life game-like situations where we're moving the ball, we're getting into, where they have to truly move the chains, first, second, third down, fourth down stuff. Can they create drives? Can we put them on the 25-yard line and make them drive the ball? Can we put them in, scenarios where there's enough mounted pressure where they can respond appropriately? And then it's really hard in practice to know how these teammates can respond. So you get a feel throughout the off season and in the fall camp. Most of the leaders on the team begin to gravitate to a particular guy, and you hope they're not gravitating to the most popular guy, rather than gravitating to the guy that they believe is going to help them win. And you just have to pay very close attention to all those details.
I like what you would do with Max Hall in the team sessions. If a guy, because the quarterback's off limits, he got within 5 yards, you'd blow as a sack, blow the whistle, and Max would yell at you, and you'd yell back, and that was always entertaining to see that. You try to frustrate him because during game action things don't go the way you want it, and you're going to have to overcome frustration. As far as from an offensive coordinator perspective, how do you go into tailoring the practices to make sure everybody has an equal opportunity, certainly in the beginning, and then work your way towards, as August rolls on, of narrowing it down?
Yeah, you can't wait long. They're going to have to make a decision soon. One of the things Bronco did years ago, and I think most programs probably don't do this anymore just based on injury, but we would get to a Thursday night, and we'd call it Thursday Night Lights, and we would let our underclassmen play. We'd turn on the music and play a game, and quarterbacks were live, and it gave us an opportunity to find out, one, that Max Hall was legit and that he was a fierce competitor, and he captured the heart of the entire team during those Thursday nights when he was redshirting or ineligible to play that year. So have they done their homework up to this point? Do they really know what McKay Hillstead can do? Do they really know I say McKay Hillstead because they've had him now for a long period of time, and he seems to be the front runner in my opinion. Have they had enough time to see this kid compete in enough settings to where they know how the team's going to respond to him? And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. If they've seen him in enough live bullet scenarios, and for the quarterbacks going into fall camp, the only way I can see them being able to do that is as quickly as they can early on, giving enough first team reps over that first week. Each of these guys, fair amount of reps, but quickly they're going to have to pick a guy and just dump the reps into him because they just don't have enough time.
When we do interviews, I've stood next to Bronson Kafusi and to Star Lotulelei and Luther Ellis, and I feel like a very small person. And you know how tall I am because I've stood next to you doing interviews, right? Now I'm going to stand next to McKay Hillstead, and I'm going to stand next to Devin Dampier, and I'm going to tower over them. Is that a good thing for Ute and Cougar fans, or should they worry about the diminutive stature of their respective potential quarterbacks here?
Well, it's a challenge. Yeah, I mean, they have a disadvantage without question. Even 2 to 3, 4 more inches, you get to 6'2", and I'm 6'2". I walked in the NFL and I felt like a shrimp. Mm-hmm. I just felt like a little man, and so being 5'10", 5'11", you certainly are at a disadvantage. So offensively, the scheme has to change. You have to create spaces in the run game and what you call the run, the RPO system, run pass option system, running zone read stuff, creating pocket movement, so that you can create space for the quarterback to see it. And there have been a lot of quarterbacks that can play this game that are 5'11", that can see the field, that can throw the ball well. But the system has to allow for it, and you do that through the scheme. And I think Aaron Roderick understands the scheme. I actually think the scheme is very good for a guy like McKay that's a little undersized. He has all the skill in the world to be able to do it. He's just undersized, and I think Utes and Cougars are hoping that that these offensive coordinators can create enough spread and enough scheme to enable these guys to do well. And as much as it is on the quarterback, it is on the offensive play caller and the scheme.
Over the years, we've talked to a lot of different quarterbacks as they headed off into the real world. One of the guys that we've had on many times over is Robbie Bosco, and he likes to say in a laughing manner that when he got on campus as a freshman, it never entered his mind that he would anywhere near taking a snap in a game for 2 years. And they felt like, and we know during that time, that's what they had. And that quarterback factory, as guys sat, learned, and then it was their time. They go on and flourish. Now you got this kid, Bear Bachmeier, who, in a crazy world that we live in now, participated in Stanford's spring ball, and here he is at BYU just a few weeks later. Do you see any way that he could be prepared enough, given such limited time, to be able to be the starter this year?
Yes, I do think he could be the starter this year, but he won't be the starter at the beginning of the season. He just hasn't had enough time to be in the scheme and develop the camaraderie, and they don't need to play him at the beginning of the season. They've got again, I keep saying McKay, but I think they got enough of a talent there, a guy that I think the team has had enough reps with and surrounded by to go in there and give him the opportunity to play. If by chance he's not playing well and is having a hard time, then you need to make a decision for the next 2 or 3 years. And it seems to me that you would begin dumping all of that time into Bear. And he does have significant upside, but he's just limited in the amount of time he's had. And Stanford was down, and so therefore he was in the mix immediately as a potential starter for them. And all of a sudden here he is again. But I think it would best serve BYU and Bear to give this guy an opportunity to get down the road a couple months.
Former BYU quarterback, former BYU offensive coordinator Brandon Doman joining us. Do you think that high school coaching and high school offenses has improved so much that you really can't compare freshmen now to freshmen from 10, 20, 30 years ago, all the 7-on-7 drills? And I've even heard video games have taught 12-year-old stuff about football that you didn't used to learn until you were 19 or 20. Is it just completely different now for someone learning to play quarterback?
No doubt. The training is so good. Skill development training. You've got guys that are, the likes of John Beck and others that have accelerated quarterback training. We have local trainers, Dustin Smith and others here locally that provide these kids off-season training that dads can find a million reps for their kids. And you're right, high school coaching has improved significantly. Schemes are better. Quarterbacks are getting more and more whacks at seeing real life, passing game offense and schemes and understanding the game of football better. Light years different. And that's why oftentimes you'll see some of these rookies get into the NFL and can be successful pretty quick because of the amount of reps they've had. Some of these guys have had 3 years of college reps, 3 years of high school reps, and they've played a ton of football by the time they get there. And I just didn't have – I had played a lot of football. When I had gotten to that age, I just hadn't seen enough of what I was going to see at BYU, so I was behind the eight ball, and I think these guys are way more ready.
One of your great accomplishments, and certainly I don't think it received the attention that it deserved as a coach at BYU, was dealing with the psyche of players. I mean, you basically had to take it down in the dumps, John Beck, and build him back up to the player that he was, and he goes on and just has an incredible senior season. And when you got him, he was just psychologically not in a good spot. And then you had to do the same thing a little while later with Jake Heaps and all that. So for Aaron Roderick and Kalani and the other offensive coaches, how important do you think it is to be able to keep these guys basically just have the confidence level, because you're going to be in this battle and everybody wants to start, and it's almost going to be like series to series, if not play to play. It could be a fickle thing.
Lavelle Edwards was so good at creating a culture for quarterbacks, and it didn't matter who the guy was. If he picked a quarterback, the culture surrounding that quarterback enabled him to become a confident person, a confident player, and in so many ways the leader of the football team. And as goes the quarterback, so goes the team. And so you have to develop a plan, a practice plan, a locker room culture, a team culture around this quarterback that enables him to truly become the guy that you want him to. And your team leaders have to understand that culture, and your coaches have to understand that culture. You can't have multiple coaches talking to the quarterback during practice. I mean, there's so many different little nuances to develop the mindset of a quarterback. And I was fortunate enough to be raised in that environment at BYU. And then I went off into the NFL, and I was in the same environment with Steve Mariucci, and Bill Walsh was there as a consultant. And those guys all had the same mindset. It was a kind of a Mike Holmgren-esque mindset. And those guys, Andy Reid is now the leader of, in my opinion, of all quarterback cultural training. He's the best in the world at it right now. And it all stems from the same environment. And you have to create a mindset and an environment and a culture for that guy to be successful. And if you can do that and you got the right quarterback, you can have great quarterbacks back to back to back, because it becomes inbred in the culture. As long as you're recruiting right, and BYU did for so many years. If you recruit right and you coach the culture right, it truly can be a quarterback factory, and that's why some people figure it out, and it just keeps happening time and time again.
You mentioned only one voice. That wasn't an accident. You just didn't throw that out there. Is that why quarterback coaches went away? Because I always thought that what PK was talking about with you and John Beck, I thought in the 90s, Robbie Bosco did a good job of that. I heard some specific stories about guys who were on the verge of melting down during games. And Robbie could say stuff to him because he played this. But then you also have the OC talking to him. So is that one of the reasons QB coaches went away?
Well, I'm going to tell you a story. Brett Favre shows up at the Green Bay Packers. He's a brand new quarterback. He's a young, budding superstar, and they know it. And so Mike Holmgren, in one of the very first staff meetings, he said, I want to make something very clear at the beginning of training camp as we go in. There will be one person talking to Brett Favre. And then he pointed over to Steve Mariucci, and he says, it'll be that coach right there, and if anybody else is going to talk to him, it would be me. I don't want any of you talking to our quarterback ever during practice. You want to address him at lunch or something and just be his friend, you can, but you do not get to talk football with him. And during practice, He hears one voice. We don't want a quarterback looking left and looking right and trying to. And oftentimes you get into practice and you might have an offensive line coach or a head coach, and then all of a sudden the receiver coach decides he wants to chime in. And those are cultures that fail. They fail at coaching quarterbacks, and we pay very close attention to who's coaching the quarterback and what voice is he listening to. And when he makes a throw, when he makes a decision, or when he's looking for any kind of positive reinforcement or a correction, his head should go one direction, and that direction should go to the exact one voice that he's being coached by. And Robert and I enabled that for me as the quarterback coach, and here he was the offensive coordinator. And again, I said Lavelle was about as good as it got, and maybe that came from Doug Scoville and through Mike Holmgren. But those guys created that years ago, and it is a living, breathing culture today all the way through the NFL.
How much do you think that Aaron Roderick might change things in terms of the game plan? Because he was talking about with Jake Retzlaff coming up that, you could give him everything. He had been in the program for 2 years and had 15 games of playing experience, whatever it was, and so they felt confident that whatever they wanted to do, he could handle it. Well, now it's reversed. Whoever's going to be playing has never taken a snap in a live game for the Cougars. So do you think that changes things from the game planning and scheme perspective?
Yes. I think they'll have to, back off a little bit and give this guy an opportunity to truly settle in. Fall camp will say a lot about how this quarterback plays. I think one of the things that you need to do a good job of going into the game plan is make sure that the quarterback's living in that game plan, that he's participating in the game plan, that he's got his favorite plays that he feels most confident in third and medium situations and red zone situations, and that it's not your playbook, but it's our playbook, and that the quarterback is completely bought into and like I said, living and breathing within those concepts so that he can be successful. And it might be a shortened playbook, but that's okay as long as he can execute the plays.
Brandon, I've been referencing you as a former BYU quarterback and offensive coordinator. For people who followed you a long time and wonder what you're doing, are you in the entrepreneurship space now? Are you doing something else? What are you up to?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, but when I left BYU, my older brother Bryce had been partners with my dad in business. My dad's now almost 88 years old, so he had all but retired 12 years ago, and so he was looking for a business partner, and I ended up joining Bryce, and we have a few different businesses that we run together, and here in Utah, we people kind of know us for developing residential basketball hoops and pickleball nets called the Dominator. We've done that now for quite some time, and that's been a great blessing. That business has continued to grow, and then we got into the trailer hitch industry, and we now have a business called WaySafe, when we manufacture and develop different types of trailer hitches for that industry, and it's been a lot of fun. I can't believe it's been, 2012. So what? 13 years ago is when I last coached a football game. I'm out of coaching much longer than I was in coaching. So it's amazing how fast time goes.
Well, congratulations on that move, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road. If they let us do this another 40 years.
You will. Okay. Keep it up, guys.
Say hello to Verl for me, okay?
I'll tell him hi. You got it.
All right. Thanks, Brandon.
Take care, guys.
There's Brandon Doman. DJ and PK proudly presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort, Utah's premier golf resort. Coming up next, JB Long, radio voice of the Los Angeles Rams on the NFC West. That's next. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We're joined now by JB Long, play-by-play voice for the Los Angeles Rams. JB, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitations, and it's good to be in good initials company.
Exactly. DJ, PK, and JB. Here we go. We've been doing a little division-by-division profile here going through the NFL. We're obviously not an NFL city here, but the NFL is big everywhere, and certainly people follow the Utes and the Cougars. And does Puka Nacua just blow everybody's mind in L.A.? Does he just come with an energy that just catches everybody off guard?
It's a good question, and it's a timely question. I just caught up with Puka after practice yesterday, and by caught up with, I mean I had to wait for about a half an hour for all of his adoring fans to finally relent and let him come over and hang out with us. as you guys probably know from following his career as a prep all the way through a collegiate and now a pro, the smile seldom leaves his face. I think he plays the game with a childlike joy, but with a grown man's intensity and violence, and it's a really unique combination. And given our sports culture and especially our football culture, it's no surprise that someone with his charisma and then also with his statistical profile burst onto the scene as a rookie, set all sorts of rookie records, and won a lot of you listening your fantasy football leagues, I'm sure. And as a result, his stardom has only grown and exceeded that of just here in Los Angeles. So, yes, I think he has become the face of the Los Angeles Rams. I think he's probably the Rams' biggest star since Todd Gurley, which is saying a lot. And it's crazy to think that he's where he is going into only year 3 and 24 years old.
We do a thing at the station where they rank the college players going, gives you some summer programming and something to talk about in a segment here and there. And going into his last year at BYU, I said, well, I'd rank him number 1. And there's no doubt in my mind. And he's that type of player. And, I'd heard from the BYU coaches and all. And plus, we saw him in high school, blah, blah, blah. Know the family, watch them play. And the thing about it is I just couldn't understand how he lasted until the 5th round. It blew me away then. It blows me away today. And maybe to the degree of the success that he's had in the NFL is a little surprising. But in my mind, the fact that he's having success is not a surprise.
Well, good on you. I hope you were just as good in your stock picks and you were in early on Apple and Google and Nvidia too, because you're probably closing in on retirement.
I am closing in on retirement, but I don't know anything about that stuff. I've watched 40 years of football, 40 years of college players.
What I love about the story that you just told and how it pertains to the Rams is, yes, they are ahead of their growth curve because they landed someone like Puka Nacua in the 5th round, and they should be congratulated for that. And yet they say it with such humility and almost like a bashfulness, because even though they were the one team out of 32 that drafted Puka Nacua, he was the 20th receiver taken in that draft, and he was the Rams' 3rd 5th round pick. So if they were as confident as you were, they tell themselves all the time, and they say publicly, they certainly would not have rolled the dice and waited that long to draft a generational star.
You say he's the face of the franchise. Normally that goes to a quarterback, especially if you have a veteran quarterback who has won a Super Bowl. Does Stafford not like the spotlight? Does he just kind of shy away from it? Or it's just Puka's charisma is just undeniable and cannot be stopped?
Yeah, well, first, I think there's room for more than one, and Sean McVay is certainly one, and there's plenty of others. Jared Verse, the Defensive Rookie of the Year. But I think I'm kind of classifying certain things, and you're right to tease that out. Matthew Stafford going into year 17, 37 years of age, right on the cusp of I believe one more good year should cement it. Yeah, QB1 is always going to be that guy, and Matthew Stafford has been the big man on campus since he was a prep too. Big-time recruit at Georgia, number 1 overall pick. So definitely he has that brand name recognition. But I'm speaking to the young audience that crowds the hedges and the fences at training camp and will wait for hours for a picture or an autograph from Puka Nacua. I think he's just captured the imagination of the next generation of Rams fans. And he also has this pop culture vibe. Because of who he is off the field, some of the crowds that he runs with, his love for LeBron James and the Lakers. I think just the imagination of Los Angeles, he has been able to capitalize in a different way, a unique way relative to the quarterback who made the confetti fall at SoFi Stadium a couple years ago.
What are the chances that Britton Covey makes a team, because he's another beloved local here? Yeah,
I'm happy to be ask that question today, because I think the odds are growing by the day. I continue to watch the way that they're using him in their offensive huddle and the groups that he's running with, the personnel packages, and we know what he's capable of on special teams. The other great thing about the way that McVay and the Rams run their operation is, Devontae Adams went through walkthrough yesterday. He's completely healthy. He's in great shape. But then he's in sneakers and a ball cap during, the first day of pads, and they're kind of just deloading him and giving him the Sunday day off, followed by the Monday double up day to keep him fresh. So Covey and others capitalize on the rest days for Puka, on the rest days for a Devontae Adams. And so they're getting more than they typically would, I think, in other organizations. I'll be curious to see if he plays in the preseason and in what capacity, because if he continues to have good moments at receiver, I think there is room for Covey on this team as like a wide receiver 5 or 6 who brings special teams ability. That's probably why they targeted him in late veteran free agency.
Are the Rams the pick in the division? There are people who would say the Niners. Obviously, they had a ton of injuries in San Francisco last year.
Yeah.
If they catch a break there, do you believe in Seattle or Arizona? How do you handicap that division?
I think the NFC West is right there with the NFC North as probably one of the best divisions in the National Football League and the most challenging top to bottom. I don't think there's a break. I think it's 4 teams that have realistic playoff ambitions, and whoever doesn't make the playoffs out of that 4-team group is probably going to have some tough questions to answer next offseason. And of those 4, I think 2 have legitimate Super Bowl aspirations. Certainly the Rams are one of them. And so long as, Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy and George Kittle and Kyle Shanahan are partnering together, I think the 49ers are very much still in their Super Bowl window. They had to make some hard decisions this offseason. I do think there can be an element of addition by subtraction in the National Football League, as ruthless as that is to live through. And then the other thing about San Francisco is when they have an off year, they really go to the bottom. The Rams have kind of had this steady measure of success. The 49ers have been right on the doorstep of a championship, or they've had a really bad season. And so what that means is they finished 4th last year and they play a 4th place schedule. So whereas the Rams have to play the Philadelphia Eagles, the Baltimore Ravens, the Detroit Lions as their crossover opponents, all of whom are legit championship contenders themselves, by comparison, the Niners get the Browns, they get the Giants, they get the Bears, and that's got to be worth something in the end in the standings. And I think that's why, in terms of like the betting markets in Las Vegas, the 49ers are the favorite, even though I think the Rams are the better roster top to bottom.
What's going on at running back with Kyren Williams and the contract and all that?
It's funny, as my barber gives me a hard time because he's always, trying to pin down the Rams running back situation for his fantasy football purposes. And he's completely given up on me. He said he's never going to take my advice anymore because, in the post-Todd Gurley universe, it's been really tough to delineate how carries are going to break down and why these backs that the Rams have drafted, like Blake Corum last year, just don't get early opportunities. Kyren Williams has had the monopoly on the backfield when he's been healthy. He's going into a contract year. I think it's a big moment for him. I know they trust him, but at the same time, they spent pretty good draft capital on Corum out of Michigan and then Jarquez Hunter this past year. And it's hard to imagine that if you're going to use those draft assets at that position, that you're not going to find a way to deploy more than one. Now, I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth here. I'm not giving you a good answer. But when Sean McVay finally becomes a running back by committee coach, I'll call you back and let you know I've not seen it happen yet.
You've talked about hard questions being asked if things go wrong with some of these teams. With Arizona, they were like the first 3 years of Kyler Murray, 5 wins to 8 wins to 11 wins to a playoff berth. Everything seemed to be trending properly. And then 4 wins, 8 wins. Now, and maybe that's a sign they're coming back and there were injuries and all that, but that's not much winning for 3 years. They have changed coaches, and maybe they'll change coaches again. Can you put your finger on what is wrong with them and what happened and why what was trending well got derailed?
Yeah, and no playoff success either. And that's where Kyler's getting paid like a franchise quarterback, and I think his skill set is one of a franchise quarterback. But if his results don't lead you to franchise quarterback things, then sooner or later you have to make a difficult decision, whether it's at that position, whether it's another change of leadership. And that's kind of what I mean in terms of it's got to be now for a team like the Arizona Cardinals. I think they're stacking blocks. I think their year-over-year improvement since they got this new regime in place has been solid. I like the way they addressed their defense this offseason. I think they're going to be a problem. I thought they were going to be good last year, and they were. They were on the front end of the schedule, another late-season fade. But I'd be surprised if the Cardinals aren't right there in playoff contention come December and January this year. That being said, if they're not, I think they have to take a real serious look in the mirror because they've cleaned up a lot of things organizationally. I think they're taking good strides. But if they can't get over the top of Seattle and San Francisco and Los Angeles, then they got to try another avenue.
McVay, I don't even think is 40, and he was very young when he got the job, and I think at 30, and had success, obviously. But then there had been in the last couple of years talk of retirement. I haven't heard much this year. Has that calmed down?
Yeah, I do think Sean's had the blessing and the privilege, and he's earned it, of kind of reinventing himself and finding the next chapter or chapters of his coaching career. Let's face it, most coaches don't get more than a year or two, and seldom do they get a second or a third opportunity. Sean, because of his rocket ship ascent, it's hard to believe that he is going into year 9, and you're correct to point out he's not yet 40 years old. You know, I do think he has the skill set to be a great broadcaster and will be an analyst at some point, but I also think he's found peace and an equilibrium as the head coach and the leader of this organization, be it through delegation and having the proper coordinators in place, being at ease with replacing the coaches that get picked off his tree year after year after year. Or even, you know, another way to say it would be, I thought there was probably a window where Sean's first coaching tenure was tied to the career of Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp and even Matthew Stafford. And so long as that nucleus was together, he probably couldn't walk away from it. Well, Aaron Donald retired, and things are looking pretty good in the pass rush. Cooper Kupp is now a Seahawk, and things are looking pretty good with Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. And I'm a believer that I think Sean's tenure with the Rams will now continue beyond Matthew Stafford, whether that's next year or a couple of years from now. My guess is he's in this for a longer haul than maybe any of us would have expected just a few years back.
Curious where the Rams sit in the LA sports hierarchy now. I watch a Ram-Niner game, and I see what looks like 40 or 50,000 people in red. I don't even know if that bothers them or if they just say, hey, thanks for the money. How does that all work?
Yeah, everyone's money is green, so that all cash is the same. And the more they can send the Niner fans home disappointed after collecting their cash, the better in terms of the long-term horizon here in Los Angeles. Look, this is an experiment somewhat unlike any other, right? To leave a professional city and the second largest city for a generation and then to come back and try to win those hearts over again. The Rams have done their level best with a ton of success, some just incredible community outreach, building the world's greatest sports and entertainment venue. But it's going to take time. It's going to take at least another generation before some of those Rams season ticket holders outnumber and outbid those from every other competing fan base that wants to come to LA and see their team play and see SoFi Stadium. Or, let's face it, LA is the ultimate melting pot in our country, and I love living here because of all the different cultures and all the different people domestically and abroad that come here to raise their family and to make their living. So I can't love and relish that and bemoan the fact that those people all have fandom, right? And so it's real easy for a Pittsburgh transplant to live and work here in Los Angeles and to pour his or her resources into one game worth of tickets and parking and concessions every few years, as opposed to the commitment that it requires of a Rams season ticket member to spend all those resources to be there week in and week out, so, some 10, 12 Sundays per year.
When Matthew Stafford, he's 37, so he's coming to an end. Quarterbacks can play longer. We've seen that. But when he retires, what is his wife going to do to keep her name in the public?
I got nothing for you there.
Wise answer by you.
Yeah.
It's a good answer.
Kelly and their daughters have been wonderful to have around. They really support Matthew in a unique and wonderful way. They have also really invested in this community. One of the most impressive things I've seen them do, Kelly specifically, is when the Fires knocked the Rams out of Los Angeles last year for their wild card game against the Minnesota Vikings. That game was played in Glendale, Arizona. Kelly rallied the community and paid for the transportation. There were numerous buses taken from LA to Arizona so that the Rams fans could be there and to support. And I think that's one of the memories I'll cherish most from my first decade with this organization. And without her efforts, I don't think it would have felt like a home game.
How about that high school battery mates of Stafford behind the plate and Clayton Kershaw on the mound?
It really is something, right? And I think that speaks to just what an athlete Matthew is. He's a good tennis player, too, from what I understand. He's a pretty good stick on the golf course. Like I said, he's the man. He's been that guy since high school, but he wears it really well. He's easy to be around. He's got this wry sense of humor that's absolutely hilarious. And for someone as accomplished, someone with his earnings, someone with his resume, he doesn't hit you over the head with it. He's a great teammate. I know his offensive line and his teammates will go to bat for him any day.
JB, we appreciate the time. Thanks for bringing the initials and bringing all the knowledge.
Hey, anytime. Have a good rest of your show and preview throughout the NFL. Thanks for your interest, even from afar. I know we got a bunch of great NFL and especially Rams fans in the Salt Lake area, especially because of Covey and Puka.
Yeah, well, we've certainly seen a lot of Laker fans at Jazz Laker games, and we saw a lot of USC fans at USC Utah games. So if the Rams ever make it up this way, there's probably Ram fans waiting for you, I'm sure.
Hey, we just did training camp in Maui. Maybe we'll come to Rice Eccles or something soon.
I bet the team votes for Maui again.
See you guys.
There's JB Long, voice of the Rams. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NFL.
We have good process, okay? And if you just told me Friday night driving home, y'all are going to pick Shedeur, I would say that's not happening. But we had a conversation early that morning, and then we had a conversation later that day. I think we had the right people involved in the conversation. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur. Well, Tony, you're in the business, and you get paid by how many hits you get, okay? And I think if you know the Manning family, I would bet that, and I don't know Arch at all, okay? I bet he stays in college 2 years, so I don't even think that's worth discussing.
There's the Browns owner Jimmy Haslam on Shedeur Sanders' pick and Arch Manning speculation. Will Arch be the number one pick next year?
Well, Tony knows. He knows the Manning family, whoever the hell Tony is.
Tony? But the Browns are going for it. They're not trying to dump the season so they can get Arch because they don't even think Arch is going to be in the draft.
What are they going for? What's it?
That's a good question. What would be success in Cleveland? A winning season certainly would be success, but maybe they don't even have to have that. Double the win total. If they had 3 last year, if they could get to 6, show some progress, and come out of it knowing, hey, that quarterback, that's our guy. I mean, they drafted 2 guys. If either one of them panned out and they felt that way at the end of the season, I think that'd be a win. Haslam's getting asked all this. He's a Tennessee alumnus. So he's got a relationship with Peyton, Arch's uncle.
So is Tony.
Tony. Hey, Tony. Bengals star defensive end Trey Hendrickson is expected to end his holdout in reports training camp, but is hoping the move will spark movement in his hopes for a new contract. Get those negotiations going. He has said he will not play for the team under his current deal. It's been a long-running dispute, so we'll see how that shakes out. Isaiah Likely, Ravens tight end, small fracture in his foot at the end of Tuesday's practice. Expectation is he could still be cleared and ready to play by the time the season opener rolls around. No surgery, rehab. And the gunman who killed 4 people in Midtown Manhattan was trying to target the NFL headquarters, but took the wrong elevator and went to the 33rd floor. Shane Tamara, a 27-year-old Las Vegas casino worker, was trying to get to the NFL offices after shooting several people in the building's lobby on Monday. 3-page note found in Tamara's wallet suggested he had a grievance against the NFL over a claim that he suffered from CTE from his playing football in high school. He also had a history of mental illness. DJ PK.
Hashtag college football.
Colorado's got a lot of former pros on their coaching staff, and Deion's adding another one. Former NFL quarterback and offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich going to Boulder. He'll work with the Buffs' QBs under offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur. It's going to be 2 voices, PK. We just had Brandon Doman saying 1 voice. Now there'll be 2. But they've been doing things different in Colorado, so why not? Central Michigan, the latest program to face formal NCAA charges in connection to the widespread sign stealing investigation centered around former Michigan staffer Connor Stalions. The moment in question occurred during Central Michigan's season opener at Michigan State when a man resembling Stalions wearing Chippewa's coaching gear and sunglasses appeared to include a recording device and was seen among Central Michigan staffers. NCAA has been looking into it since October of 2023. DJ and PK.
Hashtag Utah Jazz.
Your next Jazz fix coming up October 8th. The preseason will get underway. They're going to Houston. The Jazz will play Houston in a preseason opener on the 8th, the Spurs on the 10th. Then the Mavericks and Blazers come to town on the 13th and 16th at the Delta Center. Preseason's been shortened in recent years, only 4 games now. We used to have as many as 8.
Good.
Right?
Get on with it.
4 is better. Let's go. And they're not playing teams from New Zealand and that kind of stuff anymore. Those seem to be 60 and 80-point games, so those have been done away with. DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
And the pitch to Will. He swings. He drills it to left field. This ball's going to head back and bounce off the track and off the wall. Outman around second. He's on his way to third. He's being waved home. The cutoff is dropped. Head first slide. Safe. And Will Smith delivers with 2 outs. He gets the go-ahead run in, and the Dodgers lead it 5-4.
Breaking ball. Hit high. Hit deep. Left center. Bye-bye baseball. The legend of Andrew Vaughn keeps growing. A grand slam. You have got to be kidding me.
And Machado laces it in the air to deep left. Nimmo back to watch this one. Gonna go. A 3-run exclamation point home run for Manny Machado. His 20th of the year. And the Padre lead is now 7-1.
Padres beat the Mets 7-1. Manny Machado's 3-run homer is 20th of the year. The big blow there to break that one wide open. They don't pick up any ground on the Dodgers. Here's the Dodgers beat the Reds 5-4. But Shohei's human, PK, struck out in his first 4 plate appearances.
Rats.
He's had 4 strikeout games before, but never in the first 4 plate appearances. So almost 1,000 games into his major league career.
That's baseball.
It happens. Even to Shohei Ohtani. You heard the Andrew Vaughn grand slam. He had 6 runs batted in. And the Brewers beat the Cubs 9-3 in the matchup of the top 2 teams in the National League Central Division. The Brewers get the win, and they got a 2-game lead over the Cubs now, rattling off 3 straight victories. The Boston Red Sox comeback story continues. They win again. They beat the Twins 8-5. Trevor Story with a double, a homer, and he knocked in 3 runs. A trade in the middle of a doubleheader, PK. You don't hear that every day. Change uniforms, change locker rooms, change dugouts. So Anthony Dominguez traded in between a twin bill between the Blue Jays and the Orioles.
Well, it's convenient, I guess, there, huh?
Just walk on over. Did not appear for Baltimore in a 16-4 win, but did throw a scoreless inning in the 7th inning for Toronto in a 3-2 loss against his former team. So, sat out the first one, but in the second one, get used to it. You're ours now. Bees over the series there in Oklahoma City tonight to play the Comets. First pitch at 6 o'clock. Tony Parks will be on the air right here on 1280 The Zone. DJ and PK.
Hashtag RSL.
Real Salt Lake opens play in the League's Cup tonight. They will play one of the most popular teams in Mexico, maybe the most popular team, Club America. America first field tonight, 7:30. Coverage on the Zone begins at 6:30 with the RSL pre-match show. They'll host 3 games in a week here, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday. How many points do you get out of 9? 18 MLS teams are competing. 4 teams with the most points will move on to the quarterfinals, and the same thing will happen with the 18 teams from Mexico. So the first of 3 tonight. Expect RSL to have a few more opposing fans in the stands than you would normally expect. What is Trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Greg Bedard, New England Patriots writer, analyst, founder of BostonSportsJournal.com, is going to join us coming up at 7:30. Scotty G, co-host of Hands and Scotty G, at 8 o'clock with Aggies opening camp up. We'll talk to Scotty G and Brian Dunseth. Calling MLS games on Apple TV, including the game tonight, will join us at 9 o'clock. It's also a Win Tickets Wednesday, so we got tickets to see Eric Church on his Free the Machine tour at the Delta Center October 23rd. That'll come up in the 8 o'clock hour. The question of the day is next. Stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present?
This is JJ and Alex.
It's hard not to sell the idea of BYU stock, so to speak, in football without knowing what the quarterback situation is. And when Joel Klatt is calling him Trayshawn Bourget and Bear Brockmeyer, then I think that is only an indicator of the fact that you have guys in there that you have no clue what you're going to get.
That's a problem.
For me, I get why he's selling it. I didn't necessarily agree with the defensive side of it. Jacob Robinson is a huge piece that goes missing.
And they lost their defensive tackles, but they brought in Keanu Tanavasa.
And I will say, too, this BYU defense is going to be still very good. You know why? They plug guys into their system. They're relentless about learning that system. And when you get that defense down, how many times have we heard it? Kalani's like, this is a defense that scheme-wise you have to get familiar with. And once you are, and you're plugged in, we can make it work.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All you gotta do is put a drink in my hand, and you also need to nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at KSLSports.com/contests. And listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals.
Question of the morning. Our local college football teams are starting to practice today. How excited are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. You know, the season literally starts 1 month from today with the games. The practices all start today. They count back, and this is where they settle on the calendar. And you got everybody all starting practices. Tons of places had little local media days. Some did not. I know Bronco Mendenhall did, and he gave a 6-minute answer when they asked about the $20.5 million. And I love what he said about how it wasn't intended to be pay for play, but that's exactly what it is, or what it was. And everybody else tried to deny, we don't pay for play. The hell you don't.
Yeah, that is what it is.
Yeah.
Period, end of story.
Yeah, and they tried to claim that wasn't it, but that's exactly what it was, and Bronco said that. And so now, you can put that aside for a little bit, because I really believe that the game is what brings people to it. It's not
the business of the game.
All these other things. And now they're starting practice, and that means it's on the horizon, and you can get excited about it, because I think that people really get excited about it.
Mark does. Two words he posts. Fetching excited. 4 exclamation points.
Yeah.
Frank, all caps. Let's get the show on the road. Field. Whatever.
Well, if you're not into it, so be it. You have that right to be into whatever you're into and not be into what you don't want to be into. That's the right of all sports fans to decide what they want, if they want to be into it. But I do think that there's a large portion of people, and even if it still does a bunch of crazy things, you still decide, I'm in it, I've been in it, my father's been in it, my mother's been in it, our family's been in it, our friends, and you stay in it. I wonder how many people have really just totally 100% turned off. Now, you can decline interest. It can sag a little bit.
That's what Ryan says. He says, I'm losing interest. Once you've eaten prime rib, it's hard to settle for chuck roast.
But I don't know what that means.
I'll keep saying it. College football in Utah was better when USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, Texas, and Oklahoma were on the schedule. Ryan misses the big brand names. Now, they were all only on the schedule for 1 year. The peak year. Utah's last year in the Pac-12 and BYU's first year in the Big 12. But that year, the schedule was loaded.
Yeah, I'm over that.
Travis is not. It's really quite the stark contrast in overall conference quality to be in the Big 12 versus the Pac-12. One can't understand it until they've experienced it. Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA are big-time programs.
What's the definition of a big-time program?
Seems to me like he's reacting more to brand names. It's not like those four have all been up at the same time. At any time, a couple of those programs can be struggling.
Well, you can say that about any four programs that you choose. That's universal.
It looks to me like Travis is into the power of the brand names. And those are opposing teams that at some point he was super impressed with, and he holds them up. I mean, Oregon is currently on top of its game.
What's he a fan of?
Well, the Pac-12.
Oh, okay, but they're still there. Those teams are still playing.
Yeah.
They haven't stopped playing. You can still be a fan of Oregon and Washington.
They're not playing the Utes. To me, it looks like he's a Ute fan who loved it when the Utes played those schools, and now they're not playing those schools.
Well, sure, that was your first link to the big time.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to remember that. I understand that. And I would rather have that to be together, but it's not like it destroyed my love of the game. I thought, okay, it's going to be the same thing as we talked about with baseball when they do the work stoppage in
27.
Yeah, okay, I know you're going to come back, so it's going to be an inconvenience, but you're never going to go away because then all these people
you all lose.
Yeah,
you all lose if you stop forever.
The owners would still have their money, the players wouldn't. So it's just a question of how long the players are going to cave.
Right.
Because they're never going to make that kind of money doing 95% of them, where the owners are already super rich. And then we'll go through, I lost, they lost me, blah, blah, blah. And, we did that in 94, and it ruined the game, blah, 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 blah. And yet I went to 3 games last week, and all 3 of them were sold out. So it'll always come back because it's the game. That's the point I'm making. It's the game. Either you like the game or you don't like the game. And so the game will always be there, even if it has some temporary stoppages. I mean, it did it in basketball in, 98 or 99? They did
99, they played 50 games, and then somewhere around 2013, there was another one. They played 66 games.
Right.
There have been a bunch of partial seasons for labor issues in the NBA.
Yeah.
And then a couple more for COVID.
But
now we're back at 82.
This is the thing for college with the college realignment. But in time, but if they got the invite to the Big Ten, they wouldn't be complaining.
Nope.
So it's not about the Pac-12. Because you'd be playing Indiana, Rutgers, and Maryland, and Purdue, and that's better? You're going to tell me that's better? Is that really better?
No.
Is that you perceive the Pac-12 to be bigger because they have a few bigger brand names at the top?
And there it is.
But I say enjoy the games for what they are. And I do think that if he's a Ute fan, well, they had a crappy season last year. And if it would have been the Pac-12,
they would have had a crappy season last year.
And how much would you have been into it? It would have sucked. So I don't buy that. And I don't think Whittingham, when you talk to him, it's talking about, you got to get over it, man. You got it's up with the new. Don't waste your time thinking about what could have been. Think about what could be. Ooh, that was deep.
That was. A little poetry from Kinahan here in the morning.
It wasn't really poetry. It was a philosophical statement. In order to have poetry, I think you have to have rhyme, and I wasn't rhyming. It's philosophy. So I wouldn't call it poetry.
It had the meter. You paced yourself well through that. So it's 1 month to look forward. Don't look back. If you look forward, you'll end up having a brutal game in a month. That's Kyle's point.
Well,
UCLA's coming. Be ready.
His whole thing was, what difference does it make what conference you're in?
You have 12 games, win them.
Yeah, and if you're a fan of this, there's 2 things. You got to be a fan of the game, and then I think you got to be a fan of the school. And if you are, you mean you're not going to continue to do that? I don't buy it. I really don't buy it. And I think with the Ute fans, some, not all of them certainly, I think actually a very small percentage, they want to poo-poo it because BYU's all excited about it. and we're better than you. So, this is your excitement. This is our boredom.
Yep.
That we have to go through it until the Big Ten realizes that we're all that, and they invite us in, and we leave you behind again. I understand that.
That's a rivalry, tweaking the other fan base.
Yeah. We're better than you. We're bigger than you. Blah, 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 blah. So you got that going on. But I thought it was a fine conference last year. It represented itself well in the playoff, and away you go. And I expect it to be the same thing this year. And I guarantee you, if those Pac-12 lovers, who I am one of them, and I have actually been one of them long before you, speaking collectively, when it gets into the playoff and your team is in there and they got a chance to win, you'll be super excited. And the fact that it says 12 with the big logo rather than the Pac logo on the left spot of your shoulder or wherever they put it, it's not going to make any difference. Who cares? What difference does that make? I actually want the Big 12 to succeed at the highest level possible in spite of those idiots who ruined the conference and destroyed it. You show them, man, we didn't really need you. You guys, and it's the thing about it, it's these people who come in, the Larry Scotts, he's not a Pac-12 guy. They just hired him for big money.
Yeah.
And Kleofkoff and these guys and these presidents, they didn't grow up there. They didn't root for these. Yormark, he grew up in Jersey.
Now he walks around Kansas State and Iowa State like, yeah.
They're paying him big money. And so I'm not questioning his loyalty, but don't act like you're a lifelong fan. It's in your blood. I don't buy any of that. We see it with all these transient coaches who come in and these athletic directors.
It's a great day to be
It's a great day to get the paycheck.
There it is.
And you work. That doesn't mean you don't work hard at it and try your very best. I think you can do both, but don't try to claim that you're a lifelong as who's the one lady Ute fan? What's her name? I don't know her name, but I see her out there sometimes. She'll be out there like the Utah decided we can't park in the West parking lot. We got to park in Camas, and
hike in.
So we got to walk up at 2:00 in the morning, and the players right there on 4th South will come out, and that's where they'll hang with the families. And she's there, all decked in red. She'll say hi to you. And she posts on social media. I don't know her name, but I can see her face. That woman is a Ute. Right? That's what it means to be a Ute. Not somebody who comes from wherever.
Rolls through town for 5 years.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Right. And she's a Ute, and they could be playing Chico State, and she's going to be there rooting for the Utes. That's what it's about.
Yep.
And so you can't get away from that just because some idiots destroyed a conference that they were invited to over a decade ago. I mean, the same Larry Scott who was brilliant
was an idiot.
Yeah.
And he even called him when he was up on the state capitol and everybody was cheering, and like me now, probably because of the TV contract, but this isn't going to last. And he was right. It didn't. DJ and PK, we're joined now by Greg Bedard, New England Patriots writer, analyst and founder of BostonSportsJournal.com, here to talk about the AFC East as we gear up for the upcoming NFL season. Greg, good morning.
Morning, guys. How are we doing?
We're doing well. We were just talking about the amount of passion that ebbs and flows with winning and losing. There's some lifers, and nobody's felt certainly the ebb now than the Patriots. How's everybody adjusting to the new world order, changing coaches like other teams change coaches, changing quarterbacks like other teams change quarterbacks after 2 decades of really unprecedented success?
Not well, to be honest. I mean, I think that, the Patriots fans, especially the young ones, I mean, there were a lot of kids who went through high school, college, who knew nothing but the Patriots being in conference championship games and Super Bowls. And, when that happened, they were able to puff out their chest a lot and look down at a lot of people. And I think they enjoyed that view for a long time, and then to all of a sudden be knocked down quite a few peg in recent years, that wasn't fun for them. They like to be the bullies. They like to talk trash, and they were able to do that, and they couldn't anymore, and they're hoping Mike Vrabel brings that back.
What's the belief level in Drake May?
I think it's certainly among the fans a lot. I mean, he's the hope. Among the coaches, it's really good. I mean, I think that the sky's the limit. I mean, I think that people don't realize, you can compare him to the other guys in his draft class, like Jaden Daniels, but the biggest difference was, and the Patriots knew this, when he was coming out. I mean, Drake May is still just 22 years old. He did not play, comparatively speaking, to like a Jaden Daniels or even a J.J. McCarthy. He did not play a lot of football the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, even in high school, for example, during COVID, J.J. McCarthy went down to Florida. He transferred to IMG Academy so he could continue to play. Drake May didn't do that, and he didn't have a football season his senior year, and then he goes to North Carolina. He redshirts, so he basically doesn't play for 2 years. And then he started the last 2 years. So before last year, he had started 2 of the previous 4 football seasons as a young kid. So the talent is there. The intangibles are there. Can he put it all together with Josh McDaniels? I think so. But a lot of things are going to have to go right, up front with the receivers, things like that, to, allow him to really take a step forward.
Khyiris Tonga has been in the league now. He went to BYU, and he's been in the league for 4 years. He played for 3 different teams, the Bears, Vikings, and the Cardinals. He's landed in New England. Where does he fit in there, and how does that defensive line look?
Yeah, well, I didn't know much about him before they signed him, but obviously somebody had their eye on him because they sort of quickly pounced on him. He's really the only quote-unquote run-stuffing defensive tackle that they have. And, and I know he can do more than that. Watching him in one-on-ones with the offensive line the past couple days, I've been surprised at his level of pass rush that he can bring. But really, he's the only lone run stuffer. The Patriots decided to move on from Devon Godchow, who was their nose tackle for a lot of time. We didn't know. We don't know exactly what Mike Vrabel's going to do up front. Traditionally his defensive haven't been that great against the run, but it looks like it's a departure from the Bill Belichick system that they ran for years. They're going to create a lot of havoc up front. Really get up the field, but there are going to be times where they have to, really stop the run, and Tonga is going to be a huge part of that.
What did they win? 3 games last year? Was that what it was?
4.
4.
Well,
my bad.
4. No, I mean the last one, the 4th one, which cost them a very high draft pick, was the Joe Milton throwaway game in the final week of the season, Gerard Mayo's final game. So there's a lot of Patriots fans who would like to forget about that 4th victory, actually.
Yeah, see, that's what it was. The point I was going to make, though, outside of the Bills, they're not in the most difficult conference there. So are there wins to be had to the level of they can see some progress? Because that's what it's all about. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to expect. Vrabel's a tough guy. We understand that, and he's had success. But I don't think people are talking about playoffs. So they can find maybe some 2 or 3 more wins and call it at least a progression of a season. Well, I guess it's up to you if you want to call it a successful season.
Actually, you might be surprised because that might be the national view, but the local view, and including my view, is I think this team should take a substantial step forward this year. And if they're not competing for the postseason, somewhere around, let's call it 8, 9, 10 wins, I think that would be a disappointment, for a couple of different reasons. Number one, they were a 3 or 4 win team last year and the year before. But I think there were certainly a number of games that with a more competent coach they would have won than Gerard Mayo, who was not ready for the job. There was dysfunction on the coaching staff. It wasn't a good coaching staff. A lot of players took a step backwards last year, did not improve. Now with Vrabel here, Josh McDaniels, Vrabel's like old defensive staff in Tennessee. They have Doug Marrone's coaching the offensive line. They have 3 offensive line coaches where they barely could scrape together one over the past couple of years, with guys needing to take absences and things like that. I think the coaching is going to be a lot better. They did a really nice job at free agency. They basically did what the Commanders did last year, which was they signed a bunch of mid-level guys, but guys that people on the coaching staff that they knew the guys. They could vouch for them, and they know what they're going to get. Basically, they copied what the Washington Commanders did when Dan Quinn was hired, and we saw the results of that. The Commanders went from 4 wins to 12 wins, and they were in the NFC Championship game. Now, am I expecting that? No, but and it's not just because of that. Their schedule is incredibly weak. Take a look at it. There's especially at home. They should be able to reel off a bunch of wins. So, I expect Mike Vrabel to, get this thing going in the right direction quickly. And, they at least need to be in it towards the last week of the season. If they're not, a lot of people around here are going to be disappointed.
PK grew up in Jersey, and he always says everybody's got an opinion, but unless you're holding a ticket and you put money on it, who cares about your opinion? And I saw the odds to win the division last night, looking around at stuff, knowing you were coming on, and the Bills were obviously heavy favorites to win the division. But the next best odds were the Patriots, then the Dolphins, then the Jets. Now, Miami, they've been touted and disappointed in 500-ish, and Tua can't stay healthy, and that's a huge factor. But I was surprised to see the Patriots second, but I guess it goes to everything you were just talking about, because the people who are putting money down, somebody is betting. Maybe it's a lot of local money in Boston, but somebody is betting on the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, their Vegas over-under is 8.5. I mean, I think that's pretty accurate. I think, my initial pass-through on their schedule, I said, I just go through it and I don't, think about, I just look at the end of the day when I get to the schedule. What I had 11 to 6, and now that was before Aaron Rodgers signed with the Steelers, who they play in Week 3. If it was Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers in Week 16, I might have kept that, but Rodgers should be healthy. He shouldn't implode that team by that time. But I mean, the division, that's another big reason. I mean, I've seen Justin Fields plenty over the years. He's the new Jets quarterback. He stinks. He's not good. Now, he beat the Patriots once, when he was with the Bears, but he has these games, like 1 every out of 8, where he looks like a competent quarterback. The Dolphins feel like they're about to implode down there with, they traded away Jalen Ramsey and other guys, and Tyreek Hill, who knows if he still wants to trade. Like, it just seems like that's hanging on by a thread, plus to his health. The Patriots have a lot to sort out, especially on the offensive line. But if they can get that figured out, they should be pretty competitive. Now, I'm not going to pick them to, upset the Bills, at least in the division. Could they steal one from them? Yeah. I mean, Mac Jones, when things were not good here, had one of his best wins when he came back and beat Josh Allen and the Bills at Gillette. And so I don't rule them splitting with the Bills. So, but I think it's a team on the upswing, and they're hoping to capture the same magic that the Commanders did last year.
You mentioned the Jets and their quarterback Fields. Doesn't it seem like some teams, if they don't have a quarterback, they run through several, and it takes several years before they finally get one? It's an amazing phenomenon in this league.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the Patriots, messed this up. I mean, before I covered the Patriots, I covered the Packers, and there was nobody better at the Packers than, taking guys early, whether it was when I was there, Aaron Rodgers behind Brett Favre, and then they took Jordan Love. We'll ultimately see where Jordan Love is. But, I mean, really, if you want to look at, besides letting Tom Brady go and not signing him, where this Patriots dynasty sort of ran out of gas was when when Bill Belichick had to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, I think that Kraft basically made him trade Jimmy Garoppolo and stick with Tom. But that was one thing. But the problem was that Belichick threw a hissy fit and, didn't draft a quarterback again. He could have had Lamar Jackson in the next draft and could have gotten him ready behind him. Instead, he did nothing, to the point when Tom Brady left, he, paid Cam Newton like $1 million for one season, and that was a disaster. And then Mac Jones and the coaching around him with Matt Patricia. I mean, the Patriots were on their way until they, fell into Drake May, and I think it was a no-doubter. And I think luckily for them, at least Drake should be the guy to at least, in the short term that gets this thing turned around. But they were headed down there too until they sort of lucked into Drake May.
University of Utah has cranked out a lot of really good defensive backs. Miles Battle was on the roster, and you were saying guys didn't develop last year. Some guys went backwards, and he barely played.
Yeah.
Is he the kind of guy, diamond in the rough, the new coaching staff will appreciate him and blossom, or he's on his way out of town? What happens, you think?
Yeah, I think Miles came on the roster towards the middle or late last season, if I remember correctly. He missed a bunch of the off season with some sort of injury, which probably set him back a little bit. He's been out there since camp started. Has shown up a few times. There's a lot of competition behind Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis at cornerback. So, Miles has as good a chance as anybody. He just needs to stay on the field.
Well, Greg, we appreciate a few minutes on the AFC East and the New England Patriots. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Greg Bedard, New England Patriots writer, analyst, and founder of BostonSportsJournal.com. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Coming up at the top of the hour, the local schools are open in camp. Scotty G is going to join us. He had the basketball coach, Jared Calhoun, on the air making a little bit of news yesterday and throwing down the gauntlet on the AD. We'll talk with Scotty G about that at the top of the hour. Stay with us.
And now, a look at traffic from the KSL Traffic Center.
Lost some extra time on your commute this morning, no matter what freeway you take in Utah, Tooele, Davis, or Summit counties. Delays on southbound I-15 now begin just after Warm Springs Road to the 400 South exit, where a disabled crane is blocking one of the left turn lanes with a crash in the backup at 2300 North, which is blocking the center lanes. This update is brought to you by Advanced Window Products. $2,500 off 10 windows or more. Go to advancedwindows.com. With your KSL traffic update, I'm Jay Catch here at 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
People expect Texas Tech to maybe be in the running this year because of the talent they've added through the transfer portal.
I love that Texas Tech is getting all this run. I don't think they're going to be good. Maybe they're okay, but Bozo's going to bozo, dude. I don't know. I guess BYU basketball is an example where you can have a huge cash influx and really take a giant step, but football and basketball are different.
And BYU's always had really good culture. But along those lines, I just think it's going to be difficult for Texas Tech to shake being the fourth or fifth team in line in that state. It's just always going to be the reputation.
Well, they're going to be fourth or fifth in the league. I'd bet on it.
Right.
That's where they always finish.
Right, that's what I think too. If you end up at Texas Tech, it's not like they're out recruiting Texas.
Texas has had every advantage in the book.
Yeah, it was finally good last year.
And was good once in the last 20 years.
So you're always going to kind of have that reputation as being lesser than, and generally I think you play that way.
I think a university is dysfunctional.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
You put up a quote on our Facebook page. SMU coach Rhett Lashlee says there's no question the ACC has separated itself as one of the top 3 leagues in America. How can he be serious?
Oh, bull crap. We punked them. We went down there and we beat them.
BYU beating SMU. There it is.
I was there.
Think he's leaning on the fact that Clemson from 2015 to 2020 was elite, losing just one game a year.
Yeah, but they weren't in the conference back then. How the crap
is he? Won a couple titles.
When he made that statement, the first thing I said to myself was, whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh, 5 woes.
Yeah, well, that's what our church decided to do.
There you go. And then before that, Florida State had a couple of great years. And then if you go back 20 years, Miami, that's what he's leaning on.
Living in the freaking past.
But that's what. There's no other explanation for why he would say that.
I disagree.
Really?
I think he's talking about now. What difference does 20 years ago have anything to do with today?
Oh, the power of brands in college football. Jeez. I think they're powerful. And I think decisions get made on the power of the brand, even if the brand hasn't done anything in 20 years. Maybe this year, you think they've got 2 or 3 elite teams this year? I mean, you really would announce yourself, any other league, and most likely the Big 12 or the ACC, you'd really announce yourself if you could get 3 teams in the playoffs.
See, I think that I disagree on that. That's a beauty contest.
It is.
So somebody else announces you. Yes. I announce myself. I don't rely on some gal or guy in some boardroom in Dallas to determine how good I am. No way. That's a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how it works. But okay, so what's he leaning on?
That's not. They don't go in. So then all these coaches who they get in that league, and then if you're really good, you probably should go to those other leagues because they've announced themselves. So that's how they approach recruiting. That's ridiculous. Get out of town. We can get you anything you want here. That's how they approach recruiting. You think Kyle Whittingham just goes in and just says, well, we didn't get in, and so some beauty contest decided we weren't pretty. Bull crap. We'll show them. No way. I think that he's trying to, by making that statement, he's already acknowledging we're not good enough. He didn't realize it, but he's picking a fight with the Big 12. So he's already conceding. You don't concede nothing. Has Whittingham ever conceded anything? He won't concede an inch.
He will not.
Right. Absolutely. So Lashley's conceding, well, we're at best 3rd. What? That's your goal? We're number 3. He didn't even realize he was saying that when he said it. But that's what he was saying.
Right,
so he's picking a fight over here. There's no difference between the ACC and the Big 12. What do you get being 3rd?
That's an excellent question. Do you get more playoff berths? Because then you get more money and you get more recognition. You try to build off of that. I mean, he probably would like to say they're one of the top 2 or the best league, but he knows nobody's buying that.
But what do you get?
Maybe people will buy this.
You concede. Don't ever concede. You don't concede anything. With all that money they got, why in the world would they concede? But Jarris used to talk about, I don't give a rip about the WAC. It's about Utah. I'm not carrying the banner for the WAC. Let them carry their own banner.
Go get it done, UTEP.
Yeah. And he took them all the way to the top.
Yep.
So who cares about all that stuff? It's what you can do. Did Jerry Tarkanian in your wheelhouse care about the PC2A or whatever the crap it was?
Not for very long.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's what you can do. And so he's just trying to say separate himself so he can get a little edge on the Big 12. Great. What's that get you? You played one Big 12 team last year. At home, I realize you played at TCU too, and you split. So you're better?
I assume he's got to recruit against him, but recruiting these days comes down to money so much, and SMU's got a lot of it, clearly, so.
Yeah, you recruit for yourself. I don't necessarily think you recruit against anybody. You gotta fire up what you do.
Right, but players do like to play in leagues because they buy into the brand stuff a little bit.
They're in a league, yeah. Everybody's in a league. Notre Dame is the only team.
No, but I mean, are you excited to play in the ACC?
Are you excited to play for a great program with a great fan base, and they're going to give you money, and they can showcase your talents to get to the NFL? That's what it's about. Whether you play Purdue or Pittsburgh, what difference does it make?
And it doesn't feel like SMU is going to be bonding with Pittsburgh for very long, does it? I don't see a long-term relationship between those schools or SMU and NC State.
Outside of the money, which is big.
It's outside of the biggest thing.
Conference, but Rutgers has got the money.
Yep.
What is it doing for them? So is it really the biggest thing? I think the people are the biggest thing. How does Herm Edwards do what he does, run it in the ground, and then Dillingham...
2 years later, Dillingham wins the conference.
There was no more money there.
Hire the best people. Yeah. Hire the best people.
So I think it's the people.
But keeping the people can come down to the money.
And then if they leave, you get somebody else who's just as good or better. There's fatalist attitude here. If you're not going to succeed, then quit. If you can't do it, get out of the way and let somebody else who's going to believe that they can do it. And there's really nothing that's beneficial about being in leagues outside of that money. And that money is great if you win. But if you don't win,
what difference does it mean? Yeah. You have the money, and then you go out there and go 1-8 in conference play.
Yeah,
great.
So Rutgers is always going to get more money than Utah, and the Utes think they'll get. So they'll always get more money than BYU because nobody talks about the BYU going to the Big Ten. And what program would you rather be in? I've lived in both communities. There's a stark difference between the two.
Stark.
Yes. Steve Stark difference between the two.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's Steve Starks, but it was good enough.
Oh, you're full of S. That's your problem.
Yeah. When we come back, Scotty G will join us, co-host of Hands of Scotty G. We'll talk about the start of college football in Logan. 87 new guys. And Hands was talking about Bronco. Bronco's got a little bounce in his step because of something he's seen in camp. We'll run that by Scotty G, and we'll do that next. Stay with us. Hands and Scotty will be live today, noon to 3 they'll have Kenny from Kenny J's Barbecue. Check out their catering menu at kennyjsbarbecue.com for your next event. Scotty G joins us right now before he goes and has barbecue for lunch. Scotty, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Excellent. How are you?
Can't complain. Life is good. Football is here.
Football is here. What is your number one question about the Aggies?
Who are these new 87 players that are on the roster? I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. It's like, I think I've made this joke a few times, but it's like that first sequence in Major League when everybody's around going, who are these guys? I don't know who these guys are. Who are these guys? And I think that's what a lot of Aggie fans are doing right now. Like, okay, we don't know who these guys are, but let's try to figure it out and see how good they are.
The thing that I like, according to their own acknowledgement and their own release, that they only have 4 returning starters. So that should make an extremely interesting camp for the next 3 to 4 weeks, because obviously there's a whole bunch of starters or starting positions that are available, and if you want one, go win one.
Well, I mean, you covered Bronco closer than anybody else at BYU. He came in and he said, look, I don't care what you've done before. I've evaluated enough film, because he did encourage some people to leave after, watching some film and evaluating. And then everybody else that stayed, that came back, and everybody that was new that he brought in, he said, hey, look, everybody's starting at 0 and everything's available for you. And so if you're here, that means I think that you're a good enough player. So I don't care what you've done in the past. Everybody has a chance to be a starter and get significant playing time. So everybody started at ground zero. And so with Bronco, you believe that. Bronco doesn't play favorites. Bronco will put the best players that he thinks out there out on the field. And so that's going to be fascinating to see. And if I'm a player, I'm encouraged by that, because it doesn't matter what preconceived coaching staffs may have said about me or the issues that I've had. I'm starting at 0, and I have a chance to go out and prove myself and get some playing time.
Bronco was in New Mexico last year, and that defense was terrible, so it's not like he can bring a great defense with him. And he inherits a Utah State defense that was terrible. When New Mexico played Utah State, you probably remember this, 50-45, you were screaming touchdown all day long. Is there somewhere in there the core of, if not a good, at least a decent defense? Are there a couple difference makers that'll make the game easier for everybody else on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, and I think that, I was talking to Jan Jorgensen yesterday, who's on that staff, and Jan said that the talent level that they have this year from a defensive standpoint far exceeds what they had at New Mexico last year. And so if there's something you can take away from that, obviously they're starting with what they believe is better personnel than what they had at New Mexico. But I do think you've got a guy like Ike Larson, who was 3 years ago, looking to be on the cusp of stardom, and then took a step backwards last year and struggled with injuries and some other issues. And I think Bronco Mendenhall will be very good for a guy like Ike Larson to help him mature as a player and as a human being. And I think that he has a chance to become a very good player. You've got a defensive line with guys like Gabe Iniguez and some other guys that have floated around that are just looking for some structure and looking for a place to settle in. And I think that's a good chance. This is a lot of these guys. This is their fourth defensive coordinator in 4 years. And so Nick Howell and Bronco Mendenhall bring an established system and some consistency and hopefully a little bit of structure. And you're right, statistically, both those defenses were miserable last year. And I think there's only one direction, frankly, they can go, and that's improved.
Unless I'm wrong, they've declared Barnes as the starter at quarterback, right?
Not officially, but yeah. I mean, all but an official statement, yeah. It'll be Barnes, yeah.
Because I'm wondering, he's had to fight and scratch and claw, and you talk about Broncos kind of guy, man. Barnes is right there, out of nowhere, and Bronco loves to talk about himself being out of nowhere, and there's a lot of truth to it and all that stuff. And BYU didn't recruit him 14 times, I think. I think it's a fish story. It keeps growing. But the point I'm making is Barnes, speaking of going into camp, he's not having his fight for survival. He's the guy, and now trying to be an undisputed leader. I'm just wondering if you think that we've seen good moments from him, if that maybe settles him down. He's not going to take anything for granted and be complacent by any stretch. It's not who he is. But just the fact that, hey, I'm going to be the guy on this team should just help his development, just knowing I don't have to fight and scratch and claw just to get somebody to notice me.
It's funny. I brought that up specifically with him at Mountain West Conference Media Days. For the first time in his career, for the first time in high school, since high school, he goes into a fall camp knowing he's the guy, and knowing that, and after spring, after all those, the practices, he can lead a team during summer workouts saying, hey, I'm your quarterback. If you want to get out on the field, you want to get passes thrown your way, you're going to have to rally around me. And, he was fired up about it. He said, yeah, absolutely. He said, I want to keep that same edge that I've had because, one thing about Bryson Barnes, everybody loves to talk about the pig farm and everything else. The kid's got an edge to him. Right. He's got a little anger to him. And I think everybody telling him that, you're not good enough. And he said, look, I played in that first Rose Bowl he played in and gave us an opportunity to win that game. And 6 days later, I have to go to Lowe's and get an application because I still didn't have a scholarship, or Home Depot, one of those two. And so here's the guy that has fought for everything. And now finally there's a school out there and a coaching staff that said, okay, this is your team. Go get it. And I think he's going to respond really well. I'm really excited to see what he can do, knowing he's the guy. And that's one of the really fun storylines for Utah State this year.
He seems to be cutting down on the interceptions in the games he played last year. I mean, the touchdown-interception ratio was way better than it was at Utah. Yeah. But the completion percentage didn't really change. Has Bronco said anything about what the goal is there?
Kevin McGivern did, and McGivern wants him in the mid to upper 60s. And he says, I think we can get him there. Two very, very different offenses. I mean, you could not find more extreme differences in offenses with what he had at Utah and then what he played for with that Blake Anderson, Kyle Cephalo system last year, where they just love to throw the ball all over the field with the wide splits. And that's not something that I think Bryson was overly comfortable with, that system last year. This one's going to be more in the middle and not as conservative as Utah, but certainly not as crazy as what they had at Utah State last year. So I think this system will probably fit him a little bit better. And I think that's a fair fair goal to have him around 65 to 67%.
One of the things I think that Bronco does so well is put the focus on football, and there's a lot of he just has a way of eliminating nonsense, right? He came in to the most tumultuous time in the history of BYU sports. And we all know it. We all remember because we were all around back then. And I was a beat writer, so I was up to it in my eyeballs. And to watch him flip the whole storyline and the identity. People like to talk of the word culture. I like the word identity. And to me, culture is kind of out there, and it's in the cosmos, and you can define it different ways. But I think, at least for me, and people can disagree, obviously, that I go with the word identity, because if you have an identity, you know who you are at all times. And for me, it's just, maybe I'm simple, but it's easier to understand. And the way he flipped that, metaphorically, symbolically overnight, was one of the finest coaching jobs and really life jobs that I've ever seen in my 40 years in this business, right? And so Utah State has had all this tumultuous stuff going on, it seems like, for several years. And how much do you think just his presence at the helm of this program can make a difference, because he is a calming influence that points you in the right direction? I've seen it up close, and I know he can do it.
He is the captain that will get this boat through troubled waters. How about that?
That was beautiful. I feel like Simon and Garfunkel or something.
We put him on a boat instead of a bridge, or it would have been perfect.
No, I was, remember that, I was trying to make a Gordon Monson joke. Remember when Gordon was kissing up to a CEO, or not a CEO, but a boss of ours, and said, "Are you the captain that will get us, our boat, through these troubled waters?" And I'm looking at Gordon like, "What troubled waters, Gordon? We're fine. What are you doing?"
Nice.
He's like, "Hey, it's Steve Starks. Let me do my thing here. I'm trying to get in good with the guy." I'm like, "All right, fair enough." Anyway, sorry. Anytime I can sneak in a little Gordon Monson humor, I'm going to do it. But no, you're 100% correct. I mean, when Bronco Mendenhall was a candidate for that job, we all immediately said, yes, that makes sense, because what you need right now is a guy that's going to come in, really focus on maturing young men as both athletes and football players and human beings, and won't put up with the nonsense, that will clean house, that will let these guys really focus on player and human development and all that stuff. The Bronco football comes fifth, and all that stuff that we've known for Bronco for all those years at BYU. That is exactly what Utah State needs in that athletic department and with that football team. So, yeah, it was a home run hire in terms of that. It just made perfect sense. That's why I'm actually surprised that it happened, because a lot of times Utah State tries to make things harder than it really is. And honestly, whether it was going to be Jay Hill, who was the first option that Diana Sabo went for and made multiple offers, and then when Jay decided to stay at BYU, then it was Bronco Mendenhall, and either one of those would have been perfect for the situation that Utah State was working through at that point.
You had Jared Calhoun, the basketball coach, on the radio yesterday. I was in the car and was listening, driving around. And were you more surprised by how blunt he was about the athletic director, more surprised by the fact he has Memphis and Penny Hardaway coming into the spectrum, or more surprised that he wrote a check for $150,000?
I would say the $150,000 surprised me, because, look, he signed a contract extension for $1.8 million. Okay, so you got to figure, I don't know, DJ, in that tax range where you're at with him, you're probably taking home maybe half of that, maybe 60% of that. And then, you've got your agent fees and all that other stuff that you got to pay out. So essentially, he's giving, probably a little bit more than 10% of his salary back to Utah State for NIL funds, which is not a bad idea, because why are you trying to be successful? Well, you got to have players and you got to have talent. So you might as well invest in your players. So $150,000, I mean, that's not, you don't blink your eye at that. That's a huge donation to your own program to try to get players in. and be successful. The Memphis thing I'd known for a while, so that wasn't a big surprising thing, but they are playing in February, so it's not a November, December game. It's a take a break from conference play, and Penny Hardaway in Memphis is coming to the Spectrum, and then they'll do a return visit to Memphis next year. But the one thing that I thought was really fun for people to hear, because I hear Jared talk like this all the time, but to have him go on the air and talk like this, I thought was great, because he said this hire for Utah State as an athletic director will make or break this athletic department. And I think he's spot on. These coaches are very, very keenly interested, and they want to make he and Bronco's not as upfront about it, but he's believes the same way. They want to say in who their new boss is. They want to know who it's going to be. They want to give their opinions. They want to give their insight, because they understand with this conference transition they're going through, with the crazy world of NIL and collectives and house settlements, and the fact that you're going to see another round of realignment probably in the next 4 to 5 years. They know that this is as critical of a time for any athletic department in the country, particularly at Utah State. So, again, according to Jared Calhoun, you can't screw this up, so don't screw this up.
So you want the athletic director to stay 10 years. Is that a good number? Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Okay, so why in the world would I let Calhoun have a say? He ain't going to be there 10 years.
Nope. And I agree. But I do think that if Calhoun goes 500 next year, or if he, has key injuries, that you're going to want to have a coach that has a good connection with his athletic director. But to your point, I would take a guy that, coaches are going to come and go. Look, if Jared Calhoun blows up, and let's say he has some crazy magical season, wins a game in the NCAA tournament or two, he's going to be gone. There's no doubt. So coaches are going to come and go. That's just going to happen. But I want an athletic director who he can be the face of your institution. Sure, right. He can be your guy that will be there for 10 years and say, hey, guess what? You know what? He left. Don't worry. I got this. I know this community. I know what works here. I will take care of this. And there's guys out there that can do this job. Here's the guy. Here's the name that not a lot of people are talking about, but PK, you've been around him. I'd hire Heath Schroyer tomorrow as the athletic director. Guy hired Will Wade at McNeese State, got that thing going. Right. I think Heath Schroyer knows Utah. Right. I don't think he's LDS, but he obviously knows the culture. He was at BYU for 5 years.
Oh, yeah, he'd be fun.
So I think he would knock it out of the park as an athletic director.
Yeah, I just want somebody who has some local ties and then has a chance. The Stu Morrill thing, you can't count on that, right? And it worked well, and he had the local connection, so he retires here. It was great. And I don't know that you can do that. Because whoever it might be, like a Matt Wells had a local connection, Gary Anderson had a local connection, and they did well, but somebody's going to double their money. What are you going to do? I want somebody who at least has a chance to be here 5 years. Just give me a chance, and I'll take my chances on that.
Yeah, and you can't, and that's why I've railed on these dopey search firms forever, because I hate them. Because what they do is, and I'll use Diana Sabo specifically. Diana Sabo had never heard of Utah State before. She didn't know nothing about Utah State, but she has a search firm that gets in her ear and says, hey, on your natural progression as a hopefully a Power 4 athletic director in the Big Ten, you need to take this next step. This is the step you need to take on your career. So the first time she takes a step in the state of Utah is for her introductory press conference. And I'm not knocking her. I mean, look, she has a career path. That's what she wants to do, and God bless her for it. But for Utah State, you know what? Hire somebody that at least wants the Utah State job, not being advised to take the Utah State job.
No, I'm with you 100%.
Does everybody else understand that, Scotty? You do. But
I do.
But I just feel like people at Utah State don't know that based on who gets hired there. It feels like everybody who gets hired there, it's stepping stone and 1 foot's already out the door.
Yeah. And I think that's what Jared Calhoun, and look, Jared's part of that too as well. Like, Jared probably understands, like, I have
you got to quit hiring me.
Too.
You got to quit hiring me.
But he also knows that he knows what's best for Utah State too. Like, he sees what's going on there. And so I think that he's like, all right, you know what? You have to have, and he's begging for somebody. He has no local ties, but he came on the air yesterday. He's like, you have to have somebody who knows and appreciates the LDS culture. And to Jared Calhoun's credit, one of the first things he did was found whoever was a bishop and knew and was in the church and had some leadership and said, okay. And he took him out to lunch and he picked his brain. What's a mission? What's the story here? What do we ask these guys to do? What do you ask them to do? So he's like, look, you know what? I'm here. I'm going to figure out what this place is about and figure out what the culture is. Most people that come to Utah State, whether it's a coach or an athletic director, have never done things like that.
I like it. And I think that's the way to go. Find yourself some success, because this move into the Pac-12, it's not the old Pac-12, but I still think it's a pretty good conference. And you have an opportunity to take a massive step and be a consistent winner in the two most important sports in this conference. With the right people in place, Utah State, I have no doubt in my mind, can do that.
Yes. Yep. And they've done a fairly good job. They were behind the eight ball in NIL, and then now that they've made some efforts, they've gotten much better. They're right now probably third or fourth in the conference in football NIL payments, and that's their goal. Look, if you can be top third in this new Pac-12, in the top four of that conference or the top three in that conference in NIL payments in football and basketball, you have a chance to be competitive with Washington State and Oregon State and
Boise State.
Unless they have a Heisman Trophy winner, you should be at least competitive with Boise State near the top of the conference every year.
I think they can.
Yes,
it's there.
I fully believe that.
And it's not that far away. It's within reach.
Yep. And look, I mean, I don't think there's a university that's done more with less than Utah State has. I mean, I know football hasn't been great, but they're not the football team that you covered for that year. When you were doing the beat writer at Utah State for a season or two, like, that was miserable. Yeah. Those were some bad years. Even at their worst, they're still winning 5, 6, 7 games a season. So, I mean, I think that they've got a chance to really be something and continue to elevate this program.
Scotty G, we appreciate it as always. You are 3.5 hours away from barbecue, so enjoy that.
Yes. By the way, best ribs out there, too. I don't usually order ribs at a barbecue place because, frankly, I think I make them better than anybody. But this is one place where I had the ribs. I was like, oh, crap, these guys are better than what I can do. So, Kenny J's kills it. They're awesome.
Hans and Scotty live today, noon to 3, with Kenny from Kenny J's Barbecue. You can check out their catering menu at kennyjsbarbecue.com for your next event. And you can go hang out with Hans and Scotty today from noon to 3. Thanks, Scotty.
You got it, guys.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. There's excitement, PK. Excitement all over the horizon. From Logan to Provo to up on the hill in Salt Lake City. The opening day of college football practice is here. We will get to that next. Stay with us.
This is Hanselson and Scotty G. It's what you want.
So I'm trying to get my phone to not call me Hans.
All right, try it again.
Don't call me Hans.
Okay, what should I call you?
Hans.
You'd like me to call you Hats. Is that right?
No. Hans.
You'd like me to call you Pants.
It's the dumbest thing. What is my name, Google?
Your name is Hans.
God! Stupid. Dumb thing. Could you call me Hans, Ned?
You'd like me to call you Handsome. Is that right?
Well, it's better than Hans. Yeah.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Local college football teams start practice today. How excited are you? And they're bringing the gifts, PK. Kramer.
Frankincense and myrrh, they're bringing the gifts?
Kramer, giddy up.
Joel Kramer?
So excited. Mama Haas checking in on Twitter.
Mama Hawes?
Mama Hawes. We haven't heard from
Tyler's
her.
mother?
I don't believe that, Mama.
What's her name? Lisa.
Lisa, call in sometime. We miss you.
Lisa. Yeah, I mean, she's the prototypical fan we talk to every day. Like I was talking about that Lady Ute fan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's who they are. It's what they do. You set your calendar by it. You know, you go the summer, and then you progress in the summer, and you get July 4th. You get Mother's Day, Father's Day, July 4th. Then you start to work down, and maybe go on a vacation or whatever, get away for a little bit. Then you come back, and school starts, football starts. The high schools here, well, they're already practicing, and then the little league football gets going. It's the way it's supposed to be, and if it's not, something is wrong, and I don't want something wrong.
Tony says the only good thing about the fall is football.
Oh, I think there's a million good things about the fall.
Not for Tony.
Well,
he feels the cold winter coming on.
Okay, would you rather be dead and not feel it? The fact that you're alive is good and can experience life is good. But the fall, September, is the best month in this state. Hands down. Absolutely love it.
It's still warm, but it's not usually hot.
If I could extend 1 month into 2, it's September. You get the colors. It's not like it is in the Northeast, but it's still good. Better than it was in the desert, or is in the desert. And then you start, and then you get in that countdown, right? And you get from the football perspective, you hope that our teams have at least one good non-conference game that you can really wrap yourself around, and you look forward to it. And for me, it's Utah and
UCLA.
Yeah, right. No question about it, right? Super excited.
BYU Stanford, maybe it could have been something, but Stanford's in such a bad spot right now.
Right. That's not BYU's fault by any stretch. And I'm going to be in the Rose Bowl. That could be the last time I'm in the Rose Bowl. And I've been in the Rose Bowl. I couldn't count how many times I've been in the Rose Bowl or been there playing Brookside. And when no one's looking, try to pitch one into the stadium.
You're the first person who ever thought of that.
How close did you get?
No, I didn't do it, but
everybody talks about
I know.
There's a par 3 that's just immediately west of the actual structure. But just to be down there and all that is new with Utah that they've got going on, and then you count down, and then it's conference season, and conference season is on. And I've always loved conference season above all. And to see how it goes here and having BYU finally back in a conference is super cool. And to me, if you take a trip around the world and you plan it, all right, well, you're probably going to have a good time. It's a trip around the world, right? Or some exotic thing, whatever it might be. I like the small stuff. And the college football season, that's the small stuff for me. It doesn't cost me anything, but I really look forward to it. And the momentum of the season and how it goes by. And it's Thursday. Oh, man, we're just 48 hours away. And then it's Friday. Oh, geez. And I taught for a little bit. And in high school, I subbed for a year and a half, got my teaching certificate. And you could just feel it on Fridays in the fall at the high school level. Trying to get a kid who's on the team
to pay attention on a Friday. Yeah.
Just don't even try. They could be great kids, honor roll students, but all they're thinking about is the game that evening.
Well, for starters, they put on the jersey and wear it to school.
So I
like
get
the
it.
visual cue,
right.
Even if you actually start to focus for a minute, then you see a jersey and it's over.
Right. And it's unlike any sport that we have in that it's once a week. All the other sports,
twice a week or every day, high school level twice a week, but
yeah. And the spring, softball and baseball, I think they're going 3, right? Basketball is a Tuesday, Friday. Maybe wrestling might be a once a week because it's just a more demanding sport. I understand that, but it's not the same.
No,
you get the same body rhythm every week. Name me a sport that has that. We don't have that. And it's just so dang cool. That's the bottom line. And to know that we've got real games 1 month from today, and they're going to start, and we're going to hear about, I guarantee you, Kalani. Oh, yeah, it's great for practice. We got confidence in all three of these guys. All of our quarterbacks we got confidence in.
He's going to say that.
We believe any one of them can lead us to victory and success.
I love all these guys who are working really hard.
Yeah. And the old defense flying around, a bunch of mini jets there. They got jetpacks on.
Making plays.
Right, it's just, and we've had a great off-season conditioning. And
guys look bigger.
Yeah,
they look stronger.
I haven't really thought about jetpacks, but jetpacks are really juiced the game up.
They're zooming around.
Yeah, you want to fly sweep? I got to fly sweep.
Yeah, because you always hear that expression. They're flying around.
They are that
right?
all the time. Yeah.
And in basketball, they can jump out of the gym. Well, no one's flying and no one's jumping out of the gym.
Unless you're AJ DeBonce yesterday, apparently.
But that's not flying. That's elevating. He touched heaven and came back with riches. And is going to lead BYU, and we'll get to that in time. But yeah, if you're any kind of a fan, and I think most of our listeners are, that's the very reason why they're listening.
This is it.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Even if we have to deal with a bunch of cliches today. It's good to have the cliche.
Right.
It really is.
I expect them. In fact, I practically demand them because then I know life is in order. And we all want life in order. And our order is similar to each other with the way the season starts and how we get into it and all. Somebody else's life. Whatever that order is, that's what you want. And when you get out of order, you don't feel right. Something's up. No, I don't want something up. I want it to continue. And today's the first day, man. And these teams, what are they going to be when we get to December and the end of November? What's it going to be like? You know, we all have our thoughts and expectations and hopes and all.
We don't know. We rarely know.
Right. What can it be? You know, BYU, a huge, huge, pleasant surprise last year. It was awesome, man. Even the two games they lost, they like combined 9 points, something like that. Okay. And maybe that was sort of evening out for some of the games Utah and Oklahoma State. You can't win every game by 2 or 3 points.
Right at the end.
It just doesn't work that way.
Right. And after they got SMU and Oklahoma State and Utah, right at the end, the close games.
Yeah.
One was going to break against them, or in this case, two.
It had to. It just had to, and that doesn't mean you're bad. I mean, it's disappointing and all that. I understand that, but still, would you take an 11-2 season, BYU, Utah? I think Utah State would they would all jump at that. Would you take an 11-2 season? And
right now, sight unseen, and know you're going to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, but you don't even make the
conference title game.
Yeah. Would you take that?
You're talking right now?
Right now.
Today.
Would BYU and Utah fans sign up for that?
One literal month before the start of the season, you go 11-2.
I feel a poll question coming on right here.
And there's some type of tie.
Sure.
And some type of tiebreaker.
What happened last year?
Does not put you in the title game.
One fan base would take it, the other one will not. BYU would take it, Utah will not.
Man, that is a great season. And the level, and you beat your rival. You beat your rival.
Oh, you include you win the rivalry
and you beat
game.
them on their home field where they're throwing chairs and AD's doing what he's doing. Did that make it sweeter? If you're a BYU, now for me it didn't matter. I mean, I don't have that level of passion.
It was a viral moment.
BYU fans were indignant. It was so outrageous.
Oh,
and
no, it was awesome.
And
that
inside,
it hurt that much?
Inside, they were
I was going to say,
yes.
I think they just right. They were indignant, like, ooh, why would you do that?
How could they?
Yeah, but then over there, like,
Max Hall was right.
Yeah, right.
You just made it so he's right. Thank you.
How dare they do that? But that just meant, Mark shouldn't have done that. I get that. But that just meant that he's all in. Who did he hurt? Was there a crime committed there? I don't think so.
If they'd run the kickoff back for a touchdown, that would have been a crime. But they didn't, so your point, yes.
Well, he came out on the field, so that
yeah, but if they were in the flag and they called that back, that
Kyle Whittingham deserves an assault charge for that chair.
Yeah, and he smacks the chair. Come on. Who was hurt by that? If I'm a fan of Utah, I sort of like that. I certainly like what Kyle did. He was miffed. He smacks the chair. First time I've ever seen him do that. I've seen him be miffed in post-game press conferences, obviously, but to be that upset, doesn't that mean that it meant something, and maybe it meant something a little bit more? And plus the frustration of the season was mounting at that point.
Oh, yeah. He played that game several weeks in a row, and then they had to play it again at home against the rival.
How dare he be a human being? What gives him the right?
Well, here's the thing. It only added to the lore of this rivalry.
Of course it did. And what Mark did, within minutes, I thought, okay, he's going to get slapped for this, not literally. But life is going to go on. Am I going to hold that against him?
No, but there's going to be a fine. There's no way the Big 12 is
okay, fine with the fine.
Yeah.
I get it. You can't go after the refs.
But you anticipated that. The ref and the whole being in the Big 12 thing. I mean, you knew by the time you got home, you're like, oh, yeah, the conference is going to announce something on Sunday or Monday.
Yeah, I get it. But
it goes on.
Yeah, and that's just, he's on the sidelines. He's passionate. I mean, we saw that with Larry Miller, right? He's brawling with fans. Is that the right thing to do? Probably not.
No, definitely not.
We understand that. But I don't think anyone should ever be judged in their worst moment. Now, in O.J. Simpson, you want to judge him in his worst moment, I'm fine with that. But what these types in a sports situation, nobody was hurt. He didn't take a swing at anybody. He didn't chest bump anybody, any of that stuff. And was it over the top? Sure. But that's the passion that we're involved in, man. That's why it's so awesome, because there is that much passion. You know, don't go. And we see this every week. It seems like in the NFL on Mondays on the concourses of the stadiums, idiot fans brawling.
Not hard to find that video.
Right. Right. I mean, that clearly is unacceptable on every single level. Right. And a lot of it's probably alcohol-induced and all that. I mean, that's ridiculous. Don't ever do that. But they haven't done that. And what's it going to be? What moments are we going to see? Isn't that what makes, for me anyway, doesn't that make life a little more fun?
DJ PK, the questions are up right now for you Ute Cougar fans, because you're right, PK. Coming off last year, obviously the Aggies, I mean, they're in a different conference. The qualifying's different. They would absolutely take 11-2 right now. But Utah and BYU fans, the 2025 Utes, the 2025 Cougars go 11-2, but miss the conference title game and the playoffs. Would you take that right now?
As a Sun Devil fan, I'd take it.
Absolutely. No chance.
When we come back, I want to pay tribute to somebody that you've never heard of, and you're going to laugh at.
I don't think that'll happen to your Sun Devils, though. I think they built up cachet from the previous year. If they do that, they'll get in. Now, Utah and BYU not coming off that year.
But that's not the question.
No. I just don't think it'll happen to them.
Oh, fine. Okay.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. You got something next?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
We're seeing people talk about Utah. The vibe has been, last year was an outlier for what we typically get from Kyle Whittingham, right?
How do they address the offensive issues? When's the last time Utah had a offense that's had 7 rushing touchdowns in a season? So you can understand how important it was to address this offensive situation, and I feel like what you're seeing right now is people like Joel Klatt and others look at what they did and what they did to address the offense, hiring Jason Beck, and brings that quarterback with him, and you're thinking, okay, you take that offense, you plug them into this team with that defense, just that alone is going to get you a winning season.
Right.
The question is now going to be, can Devin Dampier improve his passing stats and numbers to take Utah from flipping it to a winning team to a championship team?
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
It's a Win Tickets Wednesday. Caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE will win a pair of tickets to see Eric Church on his Free the Machine tour at the Delta Center, October 23rd. Caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. All right, PK, you got something?
I do.
What do you got?
I want to pay tribute to a man named Tom West.
Okay.
Now you may ask, who's Tom West?
Who is Tom West?
I don't know.
Okay. You know a little something, or you wouldn't have brought it up.
I'm going to read a little bit about Tom West.
Okay.
Our husband, father, grandpa, brother returned to his heavenly Father on Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025, at the age of 68, one day shy of his 69th birthday.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm reading from an obituary, obviously.
Clearly.
And do you find that unusual?
No, not at all.
Why do you not find that unusual?
Because we've been doing this show for 23 and a half years, and you've been reading obituaries and commercial breaks out loud to me for 23 and a half years.
So this is a man.
That was such a true recap of the last 23 and a half years. You found it funny.
Because there's stories there.
Hey, that is exactly what you always say. You are very consistent.
Yes. And I've never met Tom West, but he was born in Safford, moved all over. He and his wife lived in Magna. They raised one son and 3 daughters before moving to South Jordan, where they live now, right?
Uh-huh.
He worked hard for his family, 30-year career at Les Olson Company. Great.
Oh, okay.
Right. But here's the reason.
All right.
Here's the reason why I singled this out.
Uh-huh.
And they talk about some stuff that he liked, and obviously loves his family, that type of thing. Watching sports, especially the Utah Jazz, listening to sports radio, and being a movie buff were some of his favorite hobbies.
See, there's our listener.
Doesn't
there's
that
a
humble
profile. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people would care what I think about some rando game is still an amazing thought.
Yes. So to Tom West, whom I never met, and to his family, I just know he lived a great life, and I'm sure he would, and his family would like him to live more. And it didn't work out that way, and so he's deceased one day shy of his 69th birthday. Yeah. But watching sports, especially the Utah Jazz, listening to sports radio.
Yeah.
That, for the Jazz players and the Jazz organization, that's what it's about, man.
Yeah, I find it frustrating, as you well know, when whether it's management or coaches or players or college or pro, I just think they don't appreciate that. I think they take it for granted. And the people who built it did not take it for granted. They worked hard at it. And I know it's about the winning and the losing, and that is a big piece of the puzzle. But Lavelle Edwards did a lot of winning. But he got in his car every Monday and drove up to Salt Lake and essentially did a luncheon/press conference with other college football coaches. Long after the point that the stature of his program and he himself individually had outgrown the stature of all those other programs and all those other people. But he never, ever stopped selling BYU football. And he wanted to know who you were. The fact that Lavelle Edwards quizzed me after, I mean, it wasn't a press conference, but kind of the huddle, you have 6-7 people huddled around asking him questions. And it was like, who'd you grow up rooting for, and all that. And I'm like, okay, I know what he's doing here, but I guess journalism with a capital J, I should remain anonymous, and he should never know anything. But it kind of felt like I needed to answer those questions. And if he did it with me, he did it 1,000 other times. And so appreciate the people who built it and who got people like Tom West hooked, right? And Jerry Sloan did it. And even though he only did it intermittently, Rick Majerus did it. All the times he shut it down. But then at times, he was available for you on the phone on some rando day.
He was always available.
And there was something in it for him when he would do those TV shows that whether it was, everybody had a jazz special, every TV station did. And he would do one of them. And I know it helped him in recruiting and got his name out there. But long after he was past that point, he did it. And he liked interacting with fans. You would see him talk with people. He'd get up. He'd sit at the top of the upper bowl and he'd get up and he'd go get ice cream. And do you want some? Do you want some? No, coach. No, coach. And he'd come back with 3 of them. I know you were just being polite. And in the aisle, he'd pause like, hey, thanks. Yeah. I think we'll be pretty good next year. We got some good recruits. It's looking, man, it's like those are the people who built this. And honestly, they built it for us too. I mean, we're super fortunate we're in a town that had Lavelle Edwards and Rick Majerus and Jerry Sloan. And we're lucky we worked in that era.
Frank Layden.
Frank Layden, absolutely. Yeah.
This is the first time in all these years that I've ever read listening to sports radio.
Sports radio. Yeah.
I don't even know if he listened to me.
But it is fun. And when I went home, now you can just listen to everything on your phone all the time, right? But there was a time you had to go home to listen. I can remember doing it and listening, driving around in San Diego after I was already doing it and thinking, this is great. And you probably did it in Phoenix too. And now you can just go to the gym and put it on your phone.
Yeah, I did do it.
DJ PK coming up next. Brian Dunseth, Apple TV. MLS play pauses for Leagues Cup, one of the most popular teams, if not the most popular team in North America, in Utah tonight. We'll talk with Brian Dunseth about that next. Stay with us. DJ PK, we're joined now by Brian Dunseth, soccer commentator for Apple TV. Scored the first home goal in club history and captained the Olympic team. And now he's back in Utah. Dunny, good morning.
God, DJ, with that intro, I can feel my Venmo just draining in real time. Thanks, man.
You sound like a guy I used to know.
Yeah, I think I knew you once in a while. By the way, I got to give you guys credit. I was in an Uber to the airport the other day, and the guy, my driver, was like, "Man, do you ever listen to DJ and PK?" And I was like, "Matter of fact, I do." And he goes, "Man, I really like those guys, but sometimes they can be jerks, but I still like them." And I was like, "I think that's a really fair assessment of your judgment."
Nice. That was almost a compliment. Thank you, Dunny.
You talking to my wife?
Yeah.
He's talking to my wife or what?
I feel like I might be talking to my wife as well, but yeah, no. I feel like we're all akin in this business.
You haven't been in town enough to make your wife mad, unless you've done it from another time zone. Because you've been traveling for the Club World Cup and now for the Leagues Cup. You called a game in L.A. On the opening night of the Leagues Cup. You're all over the place. You've been following the U.S. national team, different places.
Yeah, DJ, I think you wildly underestimate my ability to piss my wife off in some way, shape, or form.
Okay.
But no, it's been great, man. It's been summer soccer rolls on. I think I haven't seen you since the beginning part of June for our show. I'm talking Real. Yeah, man, it was a couple of U.S. men's national team games, and then I was fortunate enough to be a part, or at least be the number one play-by-play analyst for the FIFA Club World Cup, which was incredible. I think I ended up doing 25 games in 28 days. Took a quick respite, did the game in Portland, came back, had wrist surgery, did the game against RSL last weekend, took off to Charlotte, and then last night I kicked off Leagues Cup in L.A. with LAFC Mazatlan. Tonight, Real Salt Lake, Club America. Tomorrow, Seattle Cruz Azul, and then back to L.A. for L.A. Pachuca. So been incredibly busy in the summer soccer, man. Super blessed, but yeah, I could use some time off, hopefully coming up soon.
So we've got this team coming in and talking about one of the better, if not the best club. Just generally speaking, what do you see the difference of level of talent versus what we have here in our league, in our country, versus what they have over there?
Yeah, VK, I think when you're talking about Club America, I think there's an important reference point, and that's a team that's over 100 years old versus, Major League Soccer that's in its 30th year. So, you have the infrastructure, you have the build, you have the culture, you have the atmosphere, you have the appetite for soccer, football, being 1A in the sporting venture versus watching Major League Soccer continue to develop over and over. And I think the challenge for Real Salt Lake in real time now is going up against a juggernaut that lost a $10 million match to LAFC a month and a half ago. And that is acutely aware of the dangers of Pablo's side, even though they're in the midst of a transition, coming off a year ago, led by Chicho and Anderson Julio and everybody up front, and now ultimately a group of players that's trying to find their form, and in the midst of having what I think is going to be a great summer transfer window with somewhere around a net spend of $9 to $10 million on attacking players.
All right, why don't you go ahead and dive into that? What do you think of said players? What kind of impact are they going to have? Big money has been spent, and it's been spent well in the history of Major League Soccer, and big money has been spent, and it has been spent poorly in the history of Major League Soccer. Transitioning into a new club, a new continent, travel, elevation, heat and humidity, summer play. Some players do it really well, some don't.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have been calling these games for 17, 18 years together. And we are, I mean, you just hit all of the danger points, which are acclimation process, language, culture. Is it their first time away from home? Is it their second or third country that they find themselves being a part of? So I think all of those things can be true, and ultimately we don't know. But I think, when you talk about Pablo, you talk about Jason Christ, you talk about Kurt Schmidt, the hope is that they have identified the player, identified the person as much as the player. And you know exactly what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Is what is, the humanity factor when we're talking about a guy coming in. Is he a leader? Is he an a-hole? Is he a great teammate? And ultimately, how quick can he acclimate to the style and system of what Pablo's, theoretical approach is going to be? He needs buy-in, and he needs leaders. And sometimes within the buy-in and the leader, you find a big personality. So you have to make sure that you get that personality right. But I'm excited by the players that I've seen being linked to the club so far, and hopefully, it's difficult right now. Athletes around the world coming into the United States, but hopefully sooner rather than later, the deals can get done. Everything can get rubber stamped. And ultimately, I know that a couple of these players are currently training with Real Salt Lake. So we're just kind of waiting for the T's to be dotted and the I's to be crossed.
In these situations, we always talk about the player and what he or they need to do to get themselves up to speed with what's going on in whatever particular situation they're in. You've been in this situation as a player. My thought for you is, rather than what can these new guys do to get up to speed, what can the existing guys do to mesh with them, which in turn would help them to get up to speed? You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I do. And listen, I was really lucky. I got to play with Pablo as a teammate down in Miami, and I was roommates with him with the U.S. men's national team. And he's one of my favorite human beings on the planet. And DJ and I've had some really outstanding conversations. I know you guys have as well. And the biggest compliment I can pay to Pablo Mastroeni is that he's the type of coach that I would want to play for. When I look back on my career, I only had a couple coaches that I really liked. And Pablo, just like seeing the way that he creates the culture and the identity, where guys walk in the morning, they shake each other's hand. And that sounds so stupid and so simple, but respectfully walk through the locker room and shake everyone's hand and cross the barriers of race, religion, sexuality, any of those things, and just like you become this band of brothers. And I think that's what he's created. And unfortunately, it goes sideways sometimes, and you have outliers, you have professional athletes, you have big egos, all those big ticket items. But I think what gets lost in the nuance of the addition of players is the oh my God moment for the existing players. And what happens when these big players walk through the door, you'll know immediately by their first couple of touches how good they are. And you will also be acutely aware as if these players are coming in to potentially compete for your position or be identified to take your position. So I think rising tide, raises all ships in a moment like this. But, ego becomes a major factor in all of this. So how can you theoretically check your ego at the door, but at the same time understand that, this is fight or flight. You got to show up, or effectively your professional career goes dwindling down the drain.
This League's Cup tournament is relatively new. This is the third one, and critics will say it's made up. Well, everything's made up. Soccer doesn't exist in nature. Yeah. Neither does football, baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever, right? It's all made up. Last year, the 3 MLS clubs took the top 3 spots, which the most valuable part of this tournament is it gets you into the Champions Cup, right? Which is that's a major tournament because that can get you into the Club World Cup.
Yeah.
I kind of had a feeling watching the scores come in last night. That was noted by all the clubs across Mexico. It's only 6 matches. There's a lot of matches to go. But the clubs from Mexico won 3 times in regulation. 3, there's no overtime. After 90 minutes, it goes straight to penalties. And they won 2 of the 3 that were tied that went to penalties. And MLS didn't win any games in 90 minutes. And I'm like, that might not be an accident. That might have been a little bit of a talking point about, hey, they're not actually better than us. And because of the salary cap and the limitations on spending in MLS, I think these teams are at a disadvantage versus the clubs from Mexico. React to all of that.
Yeah, I'll start with the end. I think they're always at an economic disadvantage, at least right now. But I think the gap and the disparity is closing quickly.
Yeah.
And we shall be thanking Jorge Mas, David Beckham, Lionel Messi, and Inter Miami because, everyone's like, oh, they're spending crazy money. Oh, my God, how can he be a TAM player? All these designation conversations, Rodrigo de Paul coming. But I think ultimately what people forget is that the more that Jorge Mas and David Beckham and Inter Miami knock down that door, it is going to change and transform the spend. And I know everyone was scared of super clubs and New York Cosmos and everything that happened back in the day with NASL, but the infrastructure is completely different. You and I have had plenty of in-depth conversations about watching the slowing of expansion and watching the ramping up. And specific to here, I mean, who would have thought that Real Salt Lake within the last 4 years would have effectively 4 different ownership groups involved that would be billion-dollar owners?
Nobody.
I mean, it's mind-boggling.
Right.
It really is. And so each has their own way of going about things. Each go theoretically have a different idea of how they want to spend their money. But that gap is closing. To your point, DJ, the change of the structure is really, really important. Top 18 teams that qualified for the playoffs last year are taking part in the League's Cup. Those who did not qualify are not participating. All 18 teams in Liga MX are participating. The top 4 teams out of the quote-unquote Eastern and Western bracket of these 18 teams in each bracket qualify for the knockout round. So you have very little room for any type of mistakes or hiccups. And goal differential will be a huge benefactor when we talk about tiebreakers. And ultimately, to your point, and you correctly pointed this out, there is no overtime. So if you end at a draw, points are split. But then if you win in penalties, you get that extra point. So that extra point, you could feel like it's a complete loss of a day because, like LAFC last night, blew the opportunity to win 5-1 in regular time, ends up losing in penalties. That's going to come back to haunt them because they've got Pachuca and Tigres coming up next. So very little wiggle room to have any type of hiccups. Now, here's the craziest part of this. With the change, top 14, we're talking top 4 teams in MLS in Liga MX. So it's almost if you want all the MLS teams to lose if you're an MLS team. Yeah. You want all the Liga MX teams to lose if you're Liga MX. So your best friend is your worst enemy in moments like this. So it was a weird opening day. I'm really excited what the next 2 match days look like. Is basically, 7 to 9 days turnaround time, and then we'll have a little bit of a break, some MLS action, and then right back into the knockout rounds. So I'm a big fan of this. There's jeopardy in every single moment. And ultimately, like we saw last night, there's risk of not starting your strongest possible 11 and just thinking, well, you know what, whether we need to win the game, whether we win the game out, I can just turn to my starters off the bench. That worked for Mazatlan and Robert Siboldi last night. It backfired on Steve Cherundolo in LAFC, and really intriguing to see what's going to happen tonight. I think Pablo's got no choice other than going out with 100% full starting 11. Maybe something similar to what we saw against San Jose the other night, because Club America has so much incredible firepower coming off the bench that you don't have much wiggle room for mistake.
You brought up with these new players, you brought up the word ego several times, and you used the phrase, check your ego at the door. And did you know we were in a meeting, DJ and I, with an administrator once, and that very administrator told our lovable best friend of all time, DJ, to, quote, check his ego at the door?
God, I wish I could have seen that.
Fact. Oh, it got Dunny, it got ugly. It got so ugly, PK was in the corner just kind of quivering in the chair, saying nothing.
I'm a guy who
meeting
thrives in uncomfortability, and I was uncomfortable. and I didn't like
man.
it.
That clown was reading. We had met with a consultant the day before, and the consultant put us on blast. And this guy's now reading the same thing to us. Didn't schedule the meeting. I had company in from out of town. I had to go. And I'm sitting there like, I'm going to sit here and listen to you. If you knew this, and I told him this, if you knew this, the company wouldn't have had to hire the consultant. Don't read the report to me. I heard this yesterday. You don't know any of it. That's why the company dropped big money. It got super uncomfortable.
I love you.
Super uncomfortable.
I've seen you. There's only a few moments where I've seen you like really agitated because you are one of the most trustworthy, unbelievable human beings that I've ever met in the business. You guys have been around forever. You're so iconic with what you guys do. And just imagining sitting in that room watching, I would, you know me, I would just be giggling. I'd have my shirt over my face and be laughing uncontrollably.
Yeah. It was something.
It was something, right?
It was. I took it all from the consultant. He knew, and he scheduled me. You're going to meet with the consultant on this day. Okay. And he came in, he said what he said. But the next day to just get called in at the end of the show and I had places to go, and this guy's reading it to me, I was not happy.
And when the consultant started talking, his first words when we met with him is, quote, "Your show is in total disarray."
Yes, that's a true story. But that didn't set me up.
And I said, thank you.
That didn't set me up. We kind of was like, the good news that came out of that is, and this is true, and anybody who does radio and anybody who does podcasts, the average commute is like 22 minutes. He said, every segment is a show. You just should assume that nobody's heard the segment before or the segment after.
Yep.
And that really did help focus the show. I think shambles was a bit much, but whatever. Disarray, sorry. Disarray was a bit much, but it definitely got us focused on the point. And I think it's one of the reasons we're here 23 plus years later. That was literally in the first year of the show. I was at the very.
I started crying.
Well, isn't it fascinating though? Because I'm in the midst of working with somebody right now with MLS and Apple TV, and everyone has their own different perspective on. I had this conversation just about soccer alone, and just saying like, hey, you think about the days of like Fox Soccer Channel, ESPN, NBC Sports, MLS on Apple, CBS Golazo, the Champions League coverage, all these different things. And we're like, you got all these experts and everybody thinks that, their ish doesn't stink and that they're doing the sport 100% the way it needs to be, put out there publicly. And everyone's doing it differently. And even right now, we're working with somebody. It's like I had this moment where I'm like, you know what? I can't be defensive in this moment. Like, I got to drop my ego. Like, I got to just listen and see what I can glean off of this conversation. And it's been great, but there's those moments where you're like, "What in the flying squirrel are you talking about right now?"
So, Dunny, that consultant gave us this advice that I've held on to for 23 years and stayed focused on. Right, it was very helpful. So we work with another guy, and then he leaves the market and he comes back, David Locke. And in the intermittent, David met this guy, and for whatever reason, they butted heads. And I don't even know the backstory. I don't know it. But to this day, we could mention the consultant's name, and it would trigger David Locke. And he did exactly the opposite of what the consultant did. And I heard a rant once where he said, "I'll tell that guy I beat him then. I beat his guy then. I'll beat the next guy he sends at me." And he's doing exactly the opposite. So to your point, there isn't just one way to do it and do it well.
Yeah.
So, crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think the funniest moment I've ever had was when a guy, a former owner in this league, said to me, "He only cares about his kids." And I was like, I'll wear that as a badge of honor each and every moment for the rest of my life. Thank you. I don't need a desk and I don't need a phone. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. But
there you go. Well, Dunny, we appreciate the time. You keep calling games, and when you stop having surgery and calling games, maybe I'll see you again.
Sounds good, you guys.
Okay.
I appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, Dunny. Apple TV will have the game tonight. Inter Miami's playing Atlas. So if you want to see Messi, that game starts at 5:30 and should wrap up, unless it goes to penalties, should wrap up just as the RSL game with Club America is getting underway.
We sure Messi's playing now?
Yes, that suspension and the All-Star game, that was. Let's just say that was mishandled.
Well, that was messy.
It was messy. It was very messy.
I was waiting for it.
All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Everything you missed in this show is coming up next. We'll get you up to speed. Stay with us.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
You know, I've been hearing people tell quarterbacks to run less forever, but then all of a sudden they turn into below average quarterbacks.
Yeah.
The reason that they're D1 starting quarterbacks is because they run.
Yes.
You can say, hey, we're going to need you to go out there and sling it and hand it off more, but that's not what makes him good. That's not why he's the quarterback at the University of Utah. He's the quarterback at the University of Utah because he can throw well enough and he ran for 1,200 yards. He's capable of that. I mean, get ready for it. I think the coaches are cheering for him to have 1,200 yards, I would guess.
Huh.
Yeah, why not? Go be dynamic. Go get 1,200 yards for a quarterback.
Yeah, of course. If you
Think
do
Michael
that,
Vick in college.
Yeah, right. No, I get it. If he is getting 100 yards a game on the ground and can do anything through the air.
Hey, we're going to need you to be less productive, pal. No,
No,
come
of
on,
course
that's
not.
crazy.
No,
They're
of course not.
absolutely rooting for that to happen.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
9 a.m. Slacker Radio Headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600. Visit the website at TrajanWealth.com. DJ and PK, time to talk about all the stuff we've been talking about today. We had Scotty G on because today is the first day of college football camps. They're practicing. The coaches are out. This is it. You get exactly 1 month to the season openers. For Utah, it's a trip to UCLA. Portland State is coming in for a money game for BYU, and the Aggies are facing UTEP. It's go time, and you couldn't be happier.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Even if you get fed a bunch of cliches on the opening day, they're talking, it's football, they're here.
This is the most anticipated opening day of all opening days.
Fact.
For me. And I guess if it's a fact for you, then that follows the same.
I think that the fact that it comes in a slower part of the sports calendar, and I didn't realize this growing up in California, how slow the sports calendar is. But if you have Major League Baseball, it's the one thing, and it fills 6 days out of 7, and you don't notice. But once you move to a city that isn't a Major League city, wow. It's different. And even in Santa Barbara, where people, I mean, it's a huge Dodger town and all that, it's still kind of removed. It isn't the same. And a lot of it is the school year calendar because it's high school and colleges in
This is
Santa
the
Barbara.
first city that I've lived in that didn't have teams.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Phoenix didn't have one, so I take that back, obviously. But I always viewed September, or in this case August 30th, as New Year's Day. To me, it's the start of a new sports year.
Yeah.
And because baseball has started way back.
Yeah.
So to me, that's when it starts, and that's when the schools start, and away
Baseball,
we go.
for a long time, baseball's opening day was the most anticipated. But they've moved the season up earlier, so it used to signal the start of spring. But, man, in a lot of these places, they're going to play through bad weather for a solid month before they get to spring. So it is anticipated, but being here without Major League Baseball and with college football being such a big deal, the anticipation here is just off the charts.
I love opening day for baseball, but it's beyond baseball. It is spring is coming. Well, it may not be today, but the worst is gone.
You've been in Phoenix and L.A., and I think that's a different vibe versus probably what you had in New Jersey. Although opening day was later then, they've moved it up.
I just couldn't wait to get outside.
Right.
That was my thing. I want to play sports outside. I want to be outside, even if I'm just standing there, because I've been inside for months at a time, and it drove me nuts because I wasn't a big TV guy, and I just needed – I had to get outside. And with the start of baseball, like, oh, man, it's going to be here. Good weather's going to be here. I'm going to be outside playing, running, riding my bike, doing all the things that I wanted to do. You know, trying to set myself up for Friday night, if you get my drift.
Hey-o.
I was 11 years old, you know. you got to get going by the time you're 12 back there.
Okay, then.
When did you have your first kiss? 20 what?
Talk about the Jazz. I'm sick of you. Thank you, Yak.
I love the Jazz. I'm excited for them. Preseason, not so much. I know they released their 4 games, and that's all great. But no, the actual games.
We both were happy with shortened up. I mean, when they were playing 8 preseason games and beating somebody from New Zealand 140 to 70 something, I
seems a little laborious there. Yeah. So get the season going, and then with that, because when baseball is opening day, that's it. You have the Masters in a couple of weeks, but when college football starts, then I've got NFL, then I've got NBA, and now we've got NHL.
Yep.
So it's like it's all right there. Baseball stands alone as its own entity, and then I look forward to the Masters a couple weeks later. But here, it's like one check after another, and then it's on.
In addition to talking college football this morning, there were a few other topics on the table. Greg Bedard joined us, New England Patriots writer. You can go listen to that, our tour of the NFL divisions. And he's saying the Patriot fans not handling the losing after all the winning. Yeah, people grow up for a whole generation puffing out their chests.
I don't know that I see 10 wins.
Seems like a lot. Their schedule is bad. They get to play the it's either the AFC or NFC South.
Yeah, but they're bad.
Oh, it's the NFC South, right? Yeah, I don't see 10 wins. I can see 6 or 7, but I can't see beyond that. He said the over/under was set at 8.5.
Vrabel's a proven winner. I'll give him that.
Right.
Got property in Park City. Has a local
But
connection.
is May the guy? I mean, you really do need a quarterback.
I don't know. He's 22 years old.
Right. And the fact that he'd only played 2 of the previous 4 years, I had not tracked that.
Tell me a quarterback who's proven he's the guy at 22. Jalen Daniels?
No, because he was in college so long.
I don't know how old.
I'd have to look it up. Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean,
how old
I think
he was.
Bo Nix was a 24-year-old rookie.
Right, I know Nix.
I think Daniels was 23.
Okay.
Daniels was 23 at the start of the season, and in December he turned 24. So he was 24 for the playoffs. So even Daniels and Nix, who came in as rookies and got their teams into the playoffs. In the case of Daniels, got them to the conference title game.
Right.
And they're not 22.
Yeah. Did you know his brother, Drake May, hit the game-winning shot for North Carolina?
Yes.
Luke May?
Yes, I think you told me that.
Oh, okay.
That's why I knew it.
Okay.
I don't think I'd put it together the first time you told me.
Yeah.
That's an athletic family right there.
Yeah.
They got it going on. But it's the Bills division. We're all expecting that.
Right, but there's opportunities to get yourself better in that division.
Get better, if any of those, well, maybe not Miami. Miami needs to get to the playoffs. The other two just need a winning record. And granted, 9-8 might get you in. Now, it didn't for Seattle last year. I think they won 10 games and missed.
Yeah, as you say, probably not, but we'll see.
At 10, you should be in, and 9 should be a definite maybe, but 10 didn't work for Seattle a year ago.
And so listening to that guy talk about the Patriots doing better than I anticipate, was like J.B. Long yesterday with the Cardinals. He had them as a contender in the NFC West. Well, that would require a leap.
They were better last year after 2 dreadful years. Yeah, I know. They went 4 wins, 8 wins.
And then Murray was hurt.
In the 4-win seasons, that was a factor, no doubt.
But
nonetheless.
I don't necessarily see them contending.
No, I don't either.
You can be decent. But J.B. Long did.
It's the Rams and the Niners. And I suspect it's the Rams.
Well, you just totally dismiss Seattle?
I do.
Really? You just said they won 10 games.
They did.
Why would I dismiss them?
Because it felt like that's their... First off, you probably shouldn't because the NFL and all kinds of crazy things happen. Teams go worst to first. But I feel like that's their max. They've gone through rebuild. They've actually, I think, got a couple good drafts. And so they're getting it, but it still feels like it's a couple years away.
Yeah,
and
but
I do wonder about quarterback.
10 can often get you in contention.
10 will get you in as a wild card. I don't think 10 will win the division.
I said in contention. I didn't say win.
Yeah. I think the Rams will win the division.
I don't know, man. Stafford isn't playing. We'll have to see.
Okay.
And then, what does Kelly say? His wife.
You were fascinated by her. You brought her up with J.P. Long yesterday. I got nothing for you. He knows better than to get into it with a quarterback's wife. He should get into it with a.
She's been out there a little bit.
Absolutely, 100%. Yes, I get why you said it, but he'd be better in getting into it with a quarterback than getting into it with a quarterback's wife.
I was just wondering, what's up with Kelly? I think that's her name.
You. Look at you.
It's entertainment, man. It's a show.
I totally get it. I get it. And he did talk about Kyrus Tonga, who bouncing around. He was pretty popular, pretty big deal at BYU, and he's now headed into his 5th year in the league. It made it sound like he's got a spot that they didn't invest a lot at that position. They're going to be counting on him.
That's Kyrus Tonga.
And he has played for 3 teams in 4 years, but he said that he was snapped up early in free agency. Clearly someone in New England had identified him, and they went out and got him after he'd played with the Cardinals last year, and before that, the Bears and Vikings.
Good for Kyrus Tonga.
Yeah. What's the number that you have to play in? Because I think he's passed it now for pension.
8675309.
No.
It's 5 years.
Oh, no, I thought it was games.
It's a game. I thought there was a game.
There's a game limit. Yeah, typically.
I remember having a conversation with Trevor Riley a few years back, and I want to say he said like 36, 37.
Somewhere in there?
Yeah. This was going way back. Several years ago.
He's good because he's played 53 games.
Oh, yeah, he's fine. You're talking about Tonga?
Tonga.
Yeah. Now, the more you play,
it can help your pension along the way.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's gonna keep playing.
Yeah, for sure.
He's played double-digit games every year, and I haven't followed him enough to know if injuries have knocked him out or for a few games.
He's good to go then, if from the pension perspective. Yeah, I've had guys tell me that once they reached the pension level, they got injured and they didn't want to go through all the rehab that it took to get back because they've got the injury. They go through the rehab, but the rehab to be an NFL player is different than to walk down the street. And they've met their goal of making that level to receive the pension. And that's very important, obviously.
We talked a little baseball. Shohei struck out in his first 4 at-bats for the first time. 6th time he's had a 4 strikeout game, but usually he's at the top of the order, so he's getting a 5th at-bat. And here, it just didn't have it. It happens.
I mean, they've fail 7 out of 10 times and you're a Hall of Famer. It's the ultimate failure sport that allows you to be successful.
And as the power games become more important, you could probably fail 7.5 times a game. Still be a Hall of Famer if you had enough homers.
Yeah.
That's what makes Judge so crazy is he's doing these massive numbers, but like he's right there for the Triple Crown again. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that he'll get it, but
well, with him missing games here.
Yeah, that's going to.
Was he got an elbow or forearm or something? Yeah. So, yeah.
That's going to cost him in the home run and ribby race.
Right.
And the college football news, Deion Sanders adds Byron Leftwich to his staff, another NFL player, quarterback and then offensive coordinator. They added a lot of NFL guys.
You know, that doesn't really do it for me. I want the guy, not to say that Leftwich isn't a great coach. Mm-hmm. I want great coaches. I don't care where they've been and who they played for. And Jed Fish didn't play for anybody.
Right.
Mike Leach didn't play for anybody. So that just because you're an NFL guy, so what?
Do you really want to do the grind?
Yeah, that's the most important thing. How good are you at being able to teach the concepts?
Yeah.
And how good are you to be a psychological advisor in a position that can wear you down and all those types of things, all that stuff. We talked to Brandon Doman about that, and I believe one of Brandon's great jobs was getting John Beck's psyche and confidence up that allow him to compete at the high level that he did, because starting and playing in a chaotic situation early at BYU potentially could have ruined him. He was able to be mentally tough enough to overcome it, but Brandon, and talking with him at the time, he said that before I worry about any schemes, I got to get this guy back to believing that he's really good. I remember him speaking to that very subject, and then he did, and then they go down to TCU, and I still remember walking up the ramp, and the locker room door opened, and those two with a huge embrace, like, you did it.
Yeah.
And I looked in and I saw it on that game. That was very important. That was a seminal moment in BYU football coming back from where they had been in the darkness. And that was a big deal. And then Bronco, at that point, man, they really took off.
Thought we were going to have an Outer Darkness reference for the second day in a row. But no, you just kept it at the darkness.
Well, it was a very dark time, obviously.
But you got to save something for the 2-win seasons, and they didn't go through that.
Right. It was their version of darkness. And it was just everybody going
Losing
in every which
season.
direction.
Yeah.
And it was so chaotic. That was one of Broncos. That coaching job that he did is one of the finest, if not the finest, I have ever seen.
That's the kind of thing that appeals to you. As you just said, there's another turnaround. Bronco with the team, and then Doman with an individual player.
Yeah.
But you love the turnaround.
It's what Pablo talks about all the time. And why I love interviewing the guy, because we get into such stuff that's so important that goes beyond X and people. Anybody can read a book and figure out how to coach. But not anybody, but you get the point. But you got to be able to do way more than that. And the guys who do that in their own men. Now there's different ways to do it. Parcells will get you in your face and tell you suck and man up. And for some guys that works. And, that was Majerus. Majerus didn't touch everyone the same. He tried his way, but not everybody responded to it. And there was a big old redhead who had a problem with it. And another guy thrived in it.
Right. And you never know.
Right.
Bill Walsh had a very different temperament on the sideline than Bill Parcells. What they had in common, first name and multiple Super Bowl trophies.
Yes.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. When we come back, your feedback, and a lot of you weighing in. Would you take 11-2 right now? You don't go to the conference title game. You don't go to the bowl game. It's BYU season last year. Would you take that right now? That question's up on Twitter. David DJ James. People are voting. We'll tell you how it looks next. Stay with us.
And it's all over almost here. Don't go nowhere.
DJ and PK, it is time for your feedback. PK posed the question earlier in the show. BYU went 11-2 last year. They lost the tiebreaker. They didn't go to the Big 12 title game, and they didn't go to the playoffs. Would you take that right now? Now, we didn't put the poll up for Aggie fans because Aggie fans would absolutely take that right now. There's no mystery there. But Utah and BYU fans, conference championship, playoffs, is that enough? Would you roll the dice? Yak, what was your prediction? Cougar fans would take it, you fans wouldn't? You were sort of right, Yak. I'll give you a B.
How so?
Well, Cougar fans, 73% said absolutely. I'll take 11-2. 27% want to roll the dice, see if they can do better, get into a conference title game, into a playoff. The U fans also take it, but they don't take it as convincingly. It's 61-39% there instead of 73-27. So they'll take it. 3 out of 5 dentists recommend. 3 out of 5 Ute fans would take 11-2. But there's a rock solid 39% of them, and this is on about 200 votes in each poll. They're saying no. Let's go for it. Go big or go home.
But that is going for it. It's some bizarre tiebreaker that eliminates you.
Well, it was this time, but next time it might not
Okay,
be.
And you said that, and I said as a Devil fan I'd take it, and you said, that might be good enough to get you in the playoff. Yeah. Thinking about, I hadn't thought about it, but because that wasn't part of the discussion. But since you said that, I was thinking about that, and you could only be 10-2 at that time because you don't have the bowl win.
Well, you could be 11-2 if you had a conference title game on your resume. But go ahead, I get your point.
Well, but you have a conference title game, then you get an automatic bid.
If the Devils are 11-2 and lose the conference title game, so if they're 11-1 and they lose the conference title game, I bet they get in.
Which I would think you'd have to give BYU in that situation too. After what they did last year?
It's possible. You're right. It is possible. I can see where the discussion, I can see your point. I can see where the discussion would go, hey, this is 2 years in a row. This program's really good.
We overlooked them last year.
That exact argument, that was literally a half a second from coming out of my mouth. We blew it last year. They beat SMU. We've had different national writers on, and at least half of them, probably more, have said, yeah, BYU is the team. Everyone was talking about Alabama, but BYU is the team that had the resume to be in.
at least be in the discussion, and they got no run whatsoever. And I think Utah has enough cachet built up, aside from last year, because they got a real legitimate reason / excuse, that they possibly could do it. Especially if they go down and work the Bruins. Not that they're all that, but that's an attention-getting game.
Well, it's definitely a case, because of the way this works, that you want to get ahead of the curve. And there's a couple ways to get ahead of the curve. And that is, be good the year before. It kind of gives you a running start, tends to improve your pole position. You're in front of people. You're at the front of their mind. And they start looking for reasons to knock you out instead of having to find reasons to put you in. And the other thing is, start fast. Yeah, if you can get a marquee win early, now we'll have to see if UCLA is really a marquee win.
Right, but BYU had that and still didn't get enough run for it.
I don't think people understood it was a marquee win when it happened.
No,
and there'll be a little bit of that with UCLA.
November 1st, you should have been able to figure it out.
Right, and they should have gotten credit for it, and they should have been in the discussion. And we talked earlier this morning about the power of leagues, and I just think when you're in the Big 12 and the ACC, you're at a disadvantage.
But if you're in the Mountain West, you're in an advantage?
No, the group of fives are all at a disadvantage.
Right,
the Big Ten and the SEC.
But Boise got in, and I realized they had to.
Well, they have to let one in. It wasn't an at-large bid. It was one for the group of five, and they had the best G5 resume.
But if you can get in with those records, if you do that, and even if you didn't, I still would take it.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We're all done. Jake and Ben are coming up next. Stay with us right here on The Zone.